I now declare the April 2026 Agenda Briefing Forum open at 6:30 p.m. and welcome all those in attendance. I now invite Councillor McGoldrick to read the Acknowledgement to Country.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The City of Melville acknowledges the Bilberman people as the traditional custodians of the land on which the city stands today and pays its respects to the Wadjuk people, the elders past, present and future.
Thank you very much, Councillor McGoldrick. I draw your attention to this disclaimer on the screen. The affirmation of civic duty and responsibility on the screen. The advice of audiovisual live streaming and recording on the screen. The purpose of the Agenda Briefing Forum on the screen. To assist me with the smooth running of our meeting, if you plan on asking a question during public question time and you haven't already submitted the questions to us in writing, it would be appreciated if you could complete a question time form found on the table to your left and hand it to an officer prior to commencement of question time. So I take the opportunity to welcome the community in attendance in the public gallery and online, and tonight we'll be discussing we won't be making decisions, but we will just be discussing matters you have an interest in. So the City is committed to listening to the community, and I ask you to assist with our decision-making process through mutual respect by not interrupting the meeting by clapping or calling out. This will assist elected members in focusing on the discussion. Should you wish to engage with the City on any matter, please make contact with the City or your elected members. So we've got item 2, attendance and apologies. We have the following councillor attending electronically with my permission. Can you please confirm your attendance, Councillor Hong?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. There are no councillors on leave of absence or providing an apology for tonight. Item 3, declarations by members. Now we move on to declarations by members. Are there any declarations by members who have not read and given due consideration to all matters contained in the business papers presented before the meeting? Nil. Declarations by members who have received and not read the elected members' bulletin? Nil. Item 4, announcements by the presiding member. Approved deputations. A number of deputations have been approved for tonight's meeting from Mr. E. Wyong, on behalf of the Friends of Kenhurst Park, Mr. A. Laquiri, Mr. B. Hadley and Mr. M. Jones on behalf of the Bull Creek Leeming Senior and Junior Football Clubs, and Miss S. Seabold of Applecross, and Mr. P. Coombs on behalf of Leeming Spartans Cricket Club, all of which are in relation to item CD 2662, John Connell Reserve Field Extension Proposal. Additionally, a deputation has been approved for Mr. S. Allarding on behalf of Allarding and Associates in relation to item UP 26107, proposed amendment to LPS 6 to rezone lot 15, 305 to 307 Stock Road, Palmyra, from light industry to service commercial. So I will call you forward for the discussion of these items to make your deputation later. So approved written submissions. There are no written submissions that have been approved for tonight's meeting. Item 5, disclosure of interest. Can the Head of Governance please advise if there are any disclosures of interest for this evening? Ms. Newman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, no disclosures have been received for this evening.
Item 6, public question time. Our now open public question time at 6:34 p.m. A number of questions have been received with notice this evening, and if we have the questioner here in attendance or have a representative to ask the question, please make your way to the microphone to ask your question when you are called. If there is no one in the audience to ask the question and the question is not taken on notice, the question and response will be provided in the notes of this meeting, which will be available to the public on Friday the 17th of April. Mr. M. McCleary of Bicton, Ms. Kay Barjas of Mount Pleasant. Okay, so we'll start with Mr M McCleary of Bigton. Is he here or a representative? There appears to be no representative or Mr McCleary. Moving on to Miss Kay Barjas of Mount Pleasant. Yes, please come forward and press the microphone button.
This one. Yeah.
Oh, you just turned it off, I think.
I have a question regarding the design and construct for the Mount Pleasant foreshore lighting. Has any consultation been undertaken? And if not, whether this will occur before the project progresses any further? That's the question.
Thank you. Pardon?
Yep,
Yes.
that was my question.
Mr Coton, Director, Environment and Infrastructure.
Yes,
Can
through
you respond?
Madam Mayor. This project involves replacing the existing lighting infrastructure that's reached the end of its useful life, and new lighting will consist of light poles and bollards, and it's not expected to negatively impact amenity, and the existing poles will be removed. The project is being designed to relevant standards, and the work's been undertaken as a design and construct, so the design work hasn't yet been undertaken. The concept design can be made available once it has been undertaken, and the proposed design certainly can be shared with the community, and the staff will endeavour to address any concerns that are raised, although it may not be practical to significantly alter the design based on community consultation due to the need to comply with relevant lighting standards.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Coton. Okay, we have a number of questions submitted by the Friends of Kenhurst Park. Do you wish to come and ask those questions? Would somebody like to ask those questions?
Oh, good evening. My name is Diana Corbyn and I live in Willagee, and I'm going to be asking the first questions. First of all, we're concerned about the total cost of the project. This is the John Connell project. And then, okay, it's obviously got two components. So what will be the cost of the cricket pitch construction portion? That's the second question. And the third question, what will be the cost of the Kenhurst Park offset revegetation? Okay. And my fourth question I'm going to ask is, will there be a state government contribution? Thank you.
Mr Burton, Acting Director of Community Development, do you have any answers for tonight?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through the Chair. Obviously, I've got the range of questions in front of me here tonight. The first question was, what is the total cost of the project? There are 6 options that are being considered by Council at this time, but I can provide you a detailed cost of each of those items. But the officer recommendation is looking at a project cost of $4.68 million for the full project cost. What is the cost of the cricket pitch construction portion? And I'll double up that with the how much will the Kenhurst Park offset revegetation cost question. So that 4.68 million rounded figure. That includes the revegetation costs, which are estimated at 1.3. So 4.68 minus 1.3. My maths 3.38. You're following me, but I'll provide these in writing. How much will the state government contribute to the total cost? At the moment, there hasn't been a contribution from the state government at this stage. How much will the Commonwealth government contribute to the total cost? At the moment, there is an allocated portion from the federal government to the cricket club. However, there needs to be further discussions on whether that will be allocated to the project should Council determine at a later date that the project will proceed. How much will the City of Melville contribute? Further information is in the report, and I can provide the detail in regard to that, but that will be subject to what Council determines next week. Can we have a copy of the budget estimate report? I can provide that to you, but it is in the appendices of the Council item. And that last question, will the City of Melville revegetate bushland to create a corridor between Rose Highway and Melville Glades Golf Course? I'll take that one on notice and we'll provide you a formal response.
Okay, thank you. And do you think it will have an impact on our rates? Sorry.
I probably can't answer that question at this time because council hasn't made a decision on this. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I understand there is another question. Is there somebody who wishes to ask it? Please give your name and suburb.
My name's John Kosh. I live in Leeming. I'm a member of the Friends of Kenhurst Park, and we've been planting and replanting areas of Kenhurst Park for many years. And even with intensive care and tree guards and watering, repeated watering, our survival of the plants we put in is between about 0 and 30%. So my question is, with the offset in Kenhurst Park, the plantings, is Melville City going to do repeat plantings and look after these plants for year after year? Because there's a good chance the survival will be very low. And does it also have any measure of measuring the success of the plantings in the degraded areas? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Coton, Director, Environment and Infrastructure.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Follow-up planting and watering on an ongoing basis for a number of years certainly would be part of the proposal, and that has been included in the costings that have been prepared.
And at what stage would you consider that the offset has been successful?
I'd have to take that question on notice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions from the gallery? Please come forward if you have a question. Please give your name and suburb.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. My name's Kim. I used to live in this area. I still am active with the Friends of Kenhurst Park. Yes, the cockatoos are really important, and they're, if we don't start looking after them, they will be non-existent in 15 to 20 years. Every bit of trees that they utilise, including banksias that they need to eat, is very important to keep. So every little bit of vegetation, even though it's a little bit, it gets kept snipping away at it each time. And yeah, it seems insignificant, but overall everyone just keeps chopping away bit by bit, and then it dies up. And my question is, how is the council going to keep the trees to remain?
Madam Mayor, I didn't quite get the speaker's her address. Where is she from, please?
I actually lived
What
here.
suburb?
I now live in Mindarie, but I still am active in the
In the
just
Kenhurst
recently
Park.
moved, yeah, Kenhurst
Yeah, thank
Park,
you.
please.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, did the speaker say Mindarie?
Yes.
Thank you.
Could you please ask your question again? I'm
Yeah,
not
so
certain I understood it.
What is the council doing to make sure the endangered trees, the trees that cockatoos need, how are they going to keep keeping them remaining in this area?
Are you talking about in the area where there's going to be some tree removal?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coton, could you respond to that?
I think the question may perhaps be broader than just this particular topic. Obviously, if the trees are removed as part of the clearing, they won't be there, they will be removed.
That's
If
right.
council
And
make a
then they
decision
can't
to do the
can't-
clearing, there won't be trees there.
That's
if-
right.
If clearing occurs.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Could you
Thank you.
please give us a copy of your question?
Yes, okay.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Please come forward to the microphone, state your name and suburb.
Katrina Bayers, regarding the same topic that we were talking about earlier. So you're saying you're replacing the lighting due to it's come to its end of its life. So I would expect if you're not going to have detailed consultation with the residents who it most affect, you're actually just replacing them almost like for like, same height, exactly the same place, etc. Is that the case?
Mr Coton?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. No, and apologies if I was unclear. Originally, we had intended to award a contract first for the design of the lights, and then we would have had a concept design that we could have gone to, or a detailed design that we could have gone to consultation on, but we didn't actually get any submissions as part of that process, so we've gone to a design and construct. So we don't actually have a design at the moment. It is unlikely it'll be exactly the same. The existing infrastructure will be removed, but it will probably be a combination of light poles and bollards, but the location of them will be designed based on an assessment of the design which hasn't yet been undertaken. So at that time, the concept design can certainly be made available to the public. So it may be similar to the existing design, or it may not be, we don't know.
So you're saying it may be available to the public, but it affects the residents that live on the street the most. Will you do a letter drop or something on to them for them to actually be aware of it and what's exactly happening?
Mr Coton?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Once the concept design has been undertaken, it is intended to do a letter drop to the adjoining residents.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions from the gallery? And can you please provide your question in writing? Thank you. If there are no further questions, I declare question time closed at 6:47 p.m. Item 7, awards and presentations. This item will be dealt with at the ordinary meeting of council. Item 8, applications for new leave of absence. This item will be dealt with at the ordinary meeting of council. Number 9, confirmation of minutes. This item will be dealt with at the ordinary meeting of council. Item 10, new business of an urgent nature. There is no new business of an urgent nature. 11, identification of matters for which meeting may be closed. The following items have been identified as confidential. C26-374, Draft Digital Strategy 2026-2030 endorsement. C26-375, Recreation Leasing Opportunity Update, Barrisdale Open Space, 40 Beverly Road, Ardros. C26-376, RFP Outcomes, 788-2794, Canning Highway, Applecross. Additionally, the following items have been identified as containing confidential attachments. Item E2697, RFT 252623, Design and Construct for Mount Pleasant Foreshore Lighting, and item E2699, RFT 252629, Construction of Goolagatup Stage 2 Welcome Place. Should elected members wish to discuss the confidential items or attachments, these items will be held until the end of the meeting so we can move behind closed doors. Item 12, petitions. This item will be dealt with at the ordinary meeting of council. 13, adoption of recommendations en bloc. This item will be dealt with at the ordinary meeting of council. Now we're moving on to number 14, reports. For the convenience of those providing a deputation, the first item I'll bring forward this evening is UP 26107, proposed amendment to LPS 6 to rezone Lot 15, 305 to 307 Stock Road, Palmyra, from light industry to service commercial. Ms Aladdin, will you please make your way to the microphone to make your deputation? You will have 10 minutes to speak, with a further 5 minutes for elected members to ask questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors. I hope not to take up the whole 10 minutes. It's fairly straightforward, I'd like to think. There is a PowerPoint, if I could have the slide, the first slide come out, which is a location plan, if that's possible. My name is Steve Allarding. I'm the town planner for the project. I also have Callan Del Dosso here from Westbridge Funds, who are the owners and operators of the facility. And I simply want to express our support for the officer's recommendation, which is to rezone 307 Stock Road from light industry to service commercial, to start with for advertising. I think the PowerPoint, when that comes up, will I think is just a half a dozen slides really to give some context about the basis for the proposal and the rationale behind why we're seeking the land to be rezoned.
Can you please just wait with your presentation until we've fixed a little technical problem?
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, you can proceed. Thank you.
I hope you can see that. It's quite small from here as well. The red square is the site, just to familiarise any councillors who are not familiar with it. But what I can say is that it's located on the corner of Sainsbury Road and Stock Road. One of the key things about it that distinguishes it from the residential area in which it's contained is that it doesn't address the industrial area. It addresses Stock Road and Sainsbury Road. So it's quite distinguishable from the other properties in the industrial area, which is probably why the council would have granted support to it in the year 2000, which I'll come to shortly. So its primary relationship really is along Stock Road, and there's a whole range of other commercial facilities along Stock Road, which I'll come to shortly, which it more aligns with. So the rezoning is to bring back into place what council have approved. If we can have a look at the next slide. I think it's that one. It should be a site history slide with an image. Sorry about that. There we go. Oh, so thank you. That's great. So just by way of brief background, it was approved in February 2000 as a showroom warehouse under the old scheme. It's operated in that way continuously for the last at least 2 decades, and it's become a fairly important part of the mix of commercial activities in that area for the local and broader community. When it was built, you can see it's built as a purpose-built homemaker type centre. All of the built form, the large glazed frontings, the access and parking arrangements are all characteristic of large format commercial development. So it was never designed or developed as an industrial activity. It was designed for commercial purposes. So its capability to be adapted for industrial conversion isn't really possible or practical. In terms of the context, if we could have a quick look at the next slide, which should be Palmyra Industrial Area, it just shows the context. So we're right on the border of the industrial area, and just reiterating what I noted before, we can see that it's a great bookend position at the intersection of that industrial area. We can see that there's no direct interaction or road access within the industrial area, unlike the industrial activities that are occurring themselves. And it really is, its relationship is with the Willagee residents across the road and Stock Road and the other commercial activities that are there. And I would imagine that would have been the reason that it was approved by council in 2000. Next slide, please. So you can see the design on the left-hand side. It's not an industrial style property. It's got large glazed frontages and parking arrangements and the like. There's a list of uses you can see there. Most of those would fall under the category of bulky goods or private recreation, so those are both prohibited uses under the existing light industry zone. So they operate under non-conforming use rights. There's a range of reasons why that's problematic. One of them is we want to see the centre thrive, and part of having them under a non-conforming use poses some considerable risk if there's ever a fire or there's a discontinuous the non-conforming use. So there's a good rationale, aside from the fact that the site is capable of it, it's to bring it back into line to really what it was approved for back in 2000. The next slide, please. All that plan is to show, you can see the linear blue along there. That's a hybrid zoning plan which shows all of the commercial zonings that occur along Stock Road and that north-south configuration, and South Terrace and the east-west configuration. So, and our position is really perfectly aligned to form that northern bookend between the Stock Road commercial and the Palmyra industrial. So finally, the next slide is just really what we're asking for, which is to change the zoning from the purple light industry to service commercial. There's nothing particularly contentious about it, but it will make a significant change, and it's an orderly and proper change because it really brings back into line what the site was originally approved for by council. And we would just love to have the council support, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr Allarding from elected members? Councillor Barber.
Thank you, Mr Allarding, for your presentation, and thank you for investing in the City of Melville. That's wonderful. Just a question. We're keen on improving verge trees, and I wondered if are you thinking of putting any trees in the front of your service hospitality rezoning?
Look, I'd probably have to ask Mr Coton if that actually is who owns that land. So the
Verge comes under the care and control of the city.
Okay, so my understanding would be that would the developer or the person making the request for the change of zoning be responsible for putting trees on verges?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I know it was a left field question, but I just thought I'd ask the deputy if they had any plans that way in the future.
Do you have an answer?
Well, not one that's probably going to answer the question, but I mean, because it's not our property, it's not within our remit to do it, and the rezoning is not to develop the property. The property's already developed. Having said that, we'd have no objection if the council wanted to put trees there, then that would be not a problem. But I think the configuration of the verge, it's quite steep. I don't know if you've seen the verge that's there, so I'm not quite sure how conducive it would be to mature planting along that section, and I think that seems to be the case quite a lot along the way along Stock Road, from what I've observed when I've driven down there as well. No worries.
Councillor Lim.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. Just a question: what's the longest, I guess, vacancy that's occurred in the area? Thank you.
Yeah, it's probably, without doing the full research on it, we estimate it's probably been 3 to 6 months would be the time frame. I think it's a popular centre, not suggesting it's not going to be popular. It's just it's not just the timing for non-conforming use being 6 months. It's, time limit is not the only factor that's relevant for us.
Are there any further questions? Councillor Wheatland.
Thank you. And look, thanks for your deputation. I appreciate the need to do this. We know that section quite well. How is this going to impact, is it the volleyball centre behind it and the other light industrial areas around it? I'm trying to get my head around it, to be clear. And I just want to understand exactly, and I probably should ask the planners this, exactly what it's going to deliver for your clients.
I can say it'll have absolutely zero impact on the volleyball centre. So if I can explain, at the moment it already has the uses that we're seeking. but they operate under what's called a non-conforming use right, which Mr Varelis, I'm sure, will be able to explain to you at length what that means. But essentially it means that it's not a use that's supportable in that zone anymore. It's got historical use rights to continue, but if ever there's a fire or if there's a discontinuance of use for a period of time, those use rights extinguish. And so from the developer's perspective, it's about shoring up the suitability of that site and allowing it to continue to invest in that site. It is a well-utilised facility, and when you have obviously a significant asset like that, that could be risked by something like a fire, which would extinguish all those use rights, then would have to convert to an industrial use. That's significant. And I think for us, the prima facie position is that the site is actually suitable for the showroom commercial type uses, and it's not suitable for industrial, and it's not taking away any industry. So it's not to accommodate a particular proposal. It's really to formalise what's there, and if those uses evolve over time because the community wants to see other activities go in there that are suitable to be approved, then they can be approved. In terms of uses and impacts on industry, there is nothing that we can see that would have any impact. If there was a use, for example, that would have any degree of sensitivity, I think all of the uses, as I've seen them under the use table, are discretionary uses. So the council would have the capacity to determine whether or not they are in fact suitable in that location. So there is still control within the council's remit to determine what uses, if there are different uses from what's there today that could go into that facility, you'd have to approve them.
Councillor Lim.
Sorry, just a quick one. What are your investment plans for the area if you were to get the rezoning that you wanted? Thank you.
There's no specific investment plans. There is an intent to make sure that there is the capacity to attract new clients there if there are turnovers of that space, and it's a lot easier to do that when to attract patrons to the facility when you have that ability to tell them that this is a permissible use under the zone. In terms of there is obviously ongoing refurbishments and renovations that occur. In terms of substantial investments, I'm not aware of any significant renewal, redevelopment or anything of that nature. That's not intended. The intention is to utilise the existing asset, make sure that it operates under a conforming use right, and that the investment is making sure that we can spend money on the facility to make sure that, you know, car parks are maintained, that any facades are painted, facilities are upgraded as they need to be when there's a change of tenancy and the like. So it's really to try and keep that presentation of the facility as high class as it possibly can, because it's obviously, we want to be able to attract patrons to continue to come to the facility, which they do at the moment.
Any further questions? If there's no further questions, thank you very much for your presentation, Mr Allarding. Mr Ponton, Manager of Strategic Urban Planning, will now provide a short officer presentation. Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the issues are very well covered, so we'll just move on. I only got the one slide. And the key issue in terms of this application on the slide, basically, as has been indicated, those last 2 dot points is probably all that I need to mention. The proposal reflects the current use of the site and is unlikely to detract from the function of the wider light industrial area. And the decision for council to make at the council meeting is initiation of the amendment. I'll leave it there in interest of time.
Councillor Wheatland.
Thank you. And look, thanks, Mr Ponton. Just a question regarding, I just want to clarify with you the commentary by what's the gentleman's name, Steve, about if there was a fire, then the existing usages that are currently there would not be able to go back there because it'd be revert back to a light industrial. Is that right? Is that because it's? Can you explain that, please, from a City of Melville planning thing?
Mr Ponton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, as indicated in the applicant's presentation, the existing uses operate under what's called non-conforming use rights. In normal circumstances, the intent of the non-conforming use right is to allow uses over time to revert to something more in keeping with the zoning. And if there was a discontinuance of use, a vacancy, or an issue such as a fire, then if there is not continuous use for 6 months or more, then that can trigger the extinguishing of those non-conforming use rights. So as the applicants have indicated, the current development on the site was approved under a previous planning scheme where these types of uses were allowed, and the site in this case lends itself to those types of uses, notwithstanding the new zoning. The applicant's grounds for the application is just to provide that security for the ongoing continuation of the current type of land uses in the event of fire or a discontinuance for 6 months.
Are there any further questions for Mr Ponton? If there are no further questions, thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, may I interrupt, please? I'd like to know if you'd consider bringing forward the John Connell reserve item.
Oh, that will be next.
Oh, terrific. Thank you.
It was only because this was relatively short and John Connell's going to be quite significant. All right, so the next item is CD 2662 John Connell Reserve Field Extension Proposal. Thank you very much. Now, Mr Yildiz, Director Legal Governance and Risk, will provide additional information in relation to this matter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in relation to this matter and the petition, I advise that the City received additional pages to the petition from Mrs Simbold, hopefully I've pronounced that correctly, presented to Council in December 2025. The additional pages contained an additional 360 signatures, which are currently being verified. The report will be updated to include this information for next week at the Council meeting.
Thank you. I advise that 2 alternative motions with notice have been received from Councillor Robbins and Councillor Spanbrook. These are being finalised and will be circulated as soon as possible. In addition to the 4 deputations concerning this item, an officer presentation has also been prepared, and we'll hear each deputation and end with the presentation. When I call your name, please make your way to the microphone to make your deputation. You will each have 10 minutes to speak, with a further 5 minutes for elected members to ask questions. Please be advised that all members of the public providing a deputation have indicated they're happy for elected members to receive their contact details. So I'm mindful this evening of time. If there are a lot of elected members' questions, please bear in mind that you can actually communicate with those who are presenting deputations tonight. They're willing to be contacted if you have a large amount of questions to ask them. So the details will be circulated to elected members tomorrow should they wish to ask further questions. So starting off with the first deputation from Dr. E. Wyong. Please come forward to make your deputation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors, for the opportunity and the privilege of making this deputation. I'd like to wait until my screen has all my material, because I'll be talking to the material on the screen. Thank you. So the intent of my deputation is not necessarily to make a case one way or the other for any of the options, but to alert all elected members to the issues associated with the alternatives and the options that are being talked about. So this first slide shows the location of the projected works. It shows the oval. It shows an area of bushland to the south, which is associated with the Roe Highway Road Reserve, but it's actually main roads land. And the area to be cleared is between the green oval and the landfill, as you can see there. Next slide, please. This slide shows in more detail the area to be cleared, which is in the middle of the left-hand diagram in the stippled area. The photographs on the slide immediately around it are all the vegetation types around or in the site. Particularly the areas of trees and small shrub vegetation is actually proposed to be cleared. The orchid on your left bottom corner is a potential orchid that could be there. Now that was searched for, it flowers in September, people looked for it in December, and guess what? Was not found. I went there subsequently to an area nearby and found a brand new population of 27 new orchids, some of which are within 20 to 50 metres of the projected clearing area and are at definite risk of being extirpated. So the area to be cleared is about 0.6 hectares. There's a large number of banksia trees on there. Some of them are quite old. They are very much used by Carnaby's cockatoos, and they are necessary for the continued existence of Carnaby's cockatoos in our area. The number of orchids potentially affected is 20 of them, and there's a total of 27 on that site. Kenner's Park used to be the second largest population of those orchids. In the last 10 years, they've almost disappeared because of climate change. Next slide, please. The approval to clear the site for the cricket pitch, or whatever it's proposed there, was provided by the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation on the proviso that an offset be offered by the City of Melville. That offset is a revegetation offset to replace or to mitigate the effect of the clearing. So there are three components of that. One is a revegetation of bare areas, which is the areas shown in green. They're basically lines, so they're tracks and open areas, 1.6 hectares. The photograph on the bottom right shows a typical tract that would be vegetated. The second requirement is improvement and management of open native vegetation, which is within the green and the red areas. A typical example is the top photograph on the right, showing relatively good banksia vegetation, but quite open. There's also a future offset banking, which I won't talk to at the moment. Next slide, please. So DWER's requirement for this offset revegetation in Kenner's Park has many components. First of all, there is a requirement to plant 30,000 plants, 10,000 a year for 3 years. The intent of that is to replace plants that die in each of those years with more plants. The requirement that DWER will assess you on as to whether you have successfully completed this project, and they will not let you stop doing this work until you have successfully completed the project to their criteria, is that the seedlings that are planted, 70% have to survive at the end of the 4 years. 70%. The species richness, you need 40 or more native species in that count. The species density that you need to have succeeded with is 4 native plants per square metre. And the weed coverage must not be more than 5%. The objective of the revegetation offset is to convert the very degraded or good quality vegetation, which is typically the cleared tracks, to very good or excellent, and to make the good vegetation that's currently vegetated also very good to excellent. So there is a requirement to improve the current condition of the vegetation. Next slide, please. So just to tell you, in the question time, it was already mentioned, the Friends of Kenner's Park have been undertaking revegetation in this site for more than 20 years. Typically, we plant 300 plants. We've done that for about 20 years. It might vary from 150 or more. Sometimes we have grants and we get more. The survival rate, as already mentioned during question time, is between 0, and I say 0, none survive, to 30% of those planted. The species richness depends on how many plants we are given, either by the city, but that's often determined by the nurseries, who will also be supplying the plants for the proposed offset vegetation required by DWER. We typically get 15 different species that we plant on a yearly basis. Some years they're slightly different, but typically 15. Our species density, when we do this volunteers and with 300 plants, is typically 1 plant in 2 to 5 square metres. Our survival depends on many factors. Planting in Kenner's Park is very difficult. Let me emphasise, very difficult. Survival depends on there being sufficient soil moisture, either provided by rainfall, which we all know is decreasing, and in some years we have had very little rainfall and we have lots of existing plants die. and artificial watering. There is also a very important factor that we need to get water down to the roots of the plant. And we have problems with water repellent soil and a compacted layer, so that often the water does not penetrate. It doesn't get to the roots. It sits on the surface. It evaporates. The plants don't get it. Another factor that we've recently identified is that we need good quality seedlings, and that has not been happening. Our nursery suppliers do not give us the quality seedlings that we need for them to survive. The root architecture needs to be excellent. Typically, we don't check that. Hardly anybody in the re-veg area checks root architecture. We are now going to insist on that on all our plantings, and so should you. Next slide, please. So the way we get over some of our problems is we apply a browsing deterrent to stop kangaroos in particular, but also rabbits. Kangaroos are probably one of the big issues we face. We auger plant holes to reduce the compaction. We put plant guards up to prevent browsing, but that doesn't always work. We fertilise the tube stock at planting time with a variety of nutrients, but also other augmentants that might be water crystals and bentonite and pumice. Then, most recently, to increase our survival rate, we've installed irrigation pipework. The money to do that has been supplied by the City of Melville. Thank you very, very much. We then water those plants. That takes a team of 4 to 10 volunteers. We water 4 to 10 litres of water to each plant. You see some of these pictures, we're all at work. There's the irrigation pipe work. There's a team of volunteers. They've either got wands or they've got a spear. The spear goes 200 to 300 millimetres down to make sure the water gets to the plant. And we water 4 to 10 litres of plant using a 1,000 litre water tank supplied by the City of Melville typically, though we have sometimes used some of our own. And we water every 2 weeks between September and April. This leads to the following issues. We need a water tank, we need a pump, we need hoses, and we need water wands and spears. This is very time consuming. It is very demanding on volunteers. So our volunteer numbers typically drop from 12 initially to 4 if we're lucky towards the end of the season, particularly in the hot weather. There's an additional cost for all this infrastructure. The piping doesn't come cheap. The hoses don't come cheap. The spears don't come cheap. The tankers don't come cheap. What we have found is really that all of this effort has had very little, if any, improvement in our plant survival. Maybe some, certainly it's not zero anymore. But if we were expecting 70%, we are nowhere near that. Next slide, please. The proposed revegetation, as described in the City of Melville revegetation offset plan, which I did have the privilege to read before it was submitted, is that the soil will be ripped or scarified. Fantastic. We applaud that. Then to plant 10,000 tube stock and also to broadcast seed. Fantastic. Then water once with 1 litre per plant when the plant is stressed. 1 litre, once, over the whole term, once. Replace the dead plants with 10,000 plants as your infill per year. Okay, standard. Issues. Tube stock suppliers have never been able to supply us with 40 different species for planting in Kenners Park, yet that's your requirement. The likely survival is low, less than 30%. Your target is 70%. When and how often and what criteria will be used to determine plant stress, which initiates the watering? Is someone going to go out there every day, every week, once a month? 1 litre of water per plant once will not save any plants. They will die immediately. How will that 1 litre be delivered to those stressed plants? You've got 10,000 plants. You'll need 10,000 litres. That's 10 water tankers at 1,000 litres each. That'll take a week. And you have to do that how often? It uses a very large amount of water. This is one of the issues we faced as well. And the water is not close by. We have to get it either from the City of Melville's work depot or from John Connell Reserve. Turnaround trip is at least an hour. There's potential large industrial expenses for infrastructure if you're going to water. If you put in these water pipelines, which we would think would be a good idea, that is very expensive. If you have to walk all there every time, and we're starting to feel this ourselves, we shouldn't be walking, there's significant trampling as we go to water all of these plants. What does that do to the bushland? Next slide, please.
How much more of your presentation do you have?
I have conclusions and that's it, Madam Chair. How long do I have? 3 minutes?
Yes, you do.
Revegetation of Kenners Park will be very welcome. It'll be a fantastic future outcome for biodiversity, for bushland condition and tree canopy, but it will take a long time to achieve. Clearing 0.68 hectares of Banksia woodland threatened ecological community would result in an immediate loss of a large number of mature trees used by threatened cockatoos. And there is a high chance of adversely impacting the threatened grand spider orchid during clearing construction, when that plant has already suffered extensive losses from climate change in Kenhurst Park itself. This is a new population. I was so proud to see it, but I don't want it destroyed. DWER's success criteria have not been met by the Friends of Kenhurst Park in more than 20 years of volunteer planting. Who's going to say it's going to be met with this? In fact, we suggest there is a high chance of not meeting any of those success criteria in revegetating 1.63 to 7.2 hectares under the current proposal. Supplying 1 litre of water per plant once, as proposed, would not ensure any survival. It would be very difficult, expensive, time and labour expensive to supply 1 litre once, let alone supply adequate water as and when required by all plants to ensure their survival. Next slide, please. Oh, I forgot. No, there you go. That's right. There's me doing some. There's some successful planting, by the way. It's not all doom and gloom. We do get some banksias flowering after a couple of years, and we do get some of these tracks revegetated. That probably was 5 sets of revegetation efforts over 10 years. Every effort should be made to eliminate clearing of any bushland to avoid a need for an offset. In fact, that is the whole purpose of offsets, to discourage you from clearing. And I'm mentioning this in the Auditor General's review of the effectiveness of offset, that this is the best offset we have ever seen, because it should prevent you doing any clearing, because it'll be too expensive. Options to avoid clearing bushland for the desired playing fields include the following. I heard this evening there were 6 options. I wasn't aware of 6. I'm only aware of 2. Maybe there's a variation of several. But anyway, I believe there's an option to reorganise the layout of the existing cricket pitches, especially the practice nets, which tend to look like they're impeding some options, but there may be others. Another one that was discussed extensively, and I was part of the working group to look at that, was put those facilities on the top of John Connell landfill to the east. And I show here an extract from the report on the options that were discussed by that working group. So if that happens, and if there's no clearing of that bushland, we suggest the area between the playing field and the tip face should be revegetated, and we've been pushing for this for about 5 years, to create a vegetated corridor between the Roe Highway Road Reserve and the Melville Glades Golf Course. I wish you every success in making the best and correct decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Wyong. Are there any questions from the elected members? Councillor Spanbrook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks very much for your deputation. Just listening to your deputation there, I'd just like to make a note first. There are some images there that actually were presented to Council in 23, and as you said, that it is a potential. And with regard to the, there's been a number of seasonal environmental assessments, so that has shown that there aren't, any threatened ecological communities. But my question to you is that there appears to be a number of challenges, with you being convener of Kenhurst Park, and with the challenges that you have obviously faced with, I'm surprised you haven't thrown your hands up in the air and walked away. So it's really quite amazing that you actually maintain your resolve and you continue with it. So in saying that, is there not anything positive, that you can actually say about the offset, to think like, hey, look, we have an opportunity here, we can get involved, if, even though you're not required, but just for something positive to think about the potential of Kenhurst Park and increasing the tree canopy there.
Thank you, Mr Wyong.
Madam Mayor and councillors, I have a very, very strong working relationship with the City of Melville. I've taken many officers to the site. Yes, I'm obviously very keen to get that revegetation happening, as I said in my presentation. I'm just concerned that the city is not aware of how difficult this will be, and as one of the questions without notice alluded to, what are you going to do to make sure you meet those criteria? Because you might be doing this for 20 years. It might cost you more than the $4 million, or the 1.3, which I now gather is the cost of the re-veg. I had estimated out of the blue that it was going to cost you 1.5. I'm pretty chuffed that I got so close. So I would love the revegetation to happen, but really not also at the cost of 0.6 hectares of clearing. I would like to see it happen, and for 20 years we have been doing this with the help of the city. We are making progress, but it is a very, very difficult task.
Councillor Spanbrook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I understand also that you have a huge database, within your friends group. How often or how many do you get every time you go out to do planting or watering at one time? And then I have a follow-up question. Thanks.
It's varied over the 20 years. Sometimes we've had 20 or 30. Most recently, we've had 4 to 10. And when we do the watering, for example, the first term we started doing it, we may have had 12 or so volunteers. The last set of volunteers, we had 4 people do the watering. So it took us 4 hours instead of 2. So our volunteer numbers have dropped. Our people attending our walks have also dropped. So I don't know why that's the case, but our volunteer base definitely has dropped.
And a follow-up, Madam
Councillor
Mayor.
Spanbrook.
So with regard to this revegetation and the offset that's in the actual documentation, it's going to be an officer's responsibility. So my question is, how often do the officers meet up with the Friends of Kenhurst Park and they actually help you with the watering and the planting and they maintain, with this, with coming from an officer perspective?
How long have I got to talk?
Just make
As
it
I
a brief response.
at the moment, we have a very good working relationship with the city. It used not to be quite so good. Sometimes officers come and help us plant. Sometimes they come and we give them a tour of the facilities. In particular with this case, I have offered multiple times to be involved in the planning of this revegetation offset. That's partly why I got to see a draft of the revegetation offset management plan a week before it was submitted to the Department of Water and Environment Regulation. I didn't have time to read it all. The part that I did read was covered in red marks. Only 1 or 2 of those red marks were addressed. So I don't know where it is. I'm still offering my services and the Friends to discuss with the City of Melville on the planning of this revegetation if the council decides to proceed. As I said at the beginning, I'm giving you the issues. I'm not necessarily going one way or the other, though it might appear to be the case, because I am also on both sides of the fence. So I objected to this proposal when it was first put up and public submissions were called for to comment on the proposal. When Dwyer said this will proceed, and there's an offset required, I had every opportunity to appeal that. That appeal would have delayed the project by at least 18 months. I decided not to appeal so I could work with the city to get the best outcome. That is against my current practice to not appeal to things I don't agree with.
So in actual fact, the revegetation does suit you and you can see positives in it. So even though there are some negatives to it, but overall, that the revegetation does have, some benefits to, receiving 7.34 hectares of revegetation.
Absolutely, as I said in the presentation, absolutely. I think it'd be a great outcome if it happened. The difficulty is getting it to happen. We have tried for 20 years to do our little bit at different areas of the park. We currently have a government grant from the Cook-Lagob government where we're doing a trial planting on the south side of Kenhurst Park. It's not an offset, but it's in another area that we've tried planting for 20 years, and our success there has been 0, absolutely 0, 0, 0. We are now going to do something quite different. We're going to do ripping and scarification. We are going to do seed broadcast. So it's like a trial to see what might happen on the north side of Kenhurst Park. So we're starting that next year.
Thank you. Councillor Barber.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, just before I start, thank you very much for your presentation. It was very interesting. I am conscious that we had a couple, I think Katrina and her husband were here to listen to the Esplanade lights item, and I wondered whether we possibly should have put them before this one. But anyway, I don't know whether we're going to be able to now, are we? We've already started.
No, we must finish this now,
Okay,
but we
that's a
can
shame.
do that item after if necessary.
All right. But just a question for Mr Wayon, and again, thank you for your presentation. I don't know whether this is a question for you or our officers, but whose suggestion was the offset of Kenhurst Park? Was that DBCA or us?
Those workings within government are a mystery to us and often not to our liking, so I don't know.
All right, thank you. How many kangaroos are on the Kenhurst Park?
We see maybe 1 every time we go on a walk.
So there's not very many? And yet you said they cause a lot of damage?
They may hide. When we're there, they will definitely not be in our way. They are sensitive to human presence.
Yes, I'm
But
wondering...
we see lots of dung. So there are kangaroos there, there's no question.
Yeah, so again, it seems silly that we're planting new seedlings somewhere where there's kangaroos.
I'm not going to ask for culling of kangaroos, thank you very much.
No, I don't want to cull the kangaroos. I'm suggesting, are we silly planting new seedlings there?
They definitely do go for the seedlings. I mean, when you put tree guards around them, which is a plastic bag with stakes around, you can see they've been there because that plastic bag is depressed. So the kangaroos have put their head in the bag and they often lift the plants out, and that happens. So that's why we tried this Sentry, this browsing deterrent. One of our members actually went to New South Wales to buy this. Well, they actually saw it then and bought it. What it is, it's an egg mixture that has carborundum in it and another repellent, so the kangaroos don't like it. It doesn't smell good, and it, you know, hurts their tongues, their gums, so they don't eat it. So we did that 1 year. It worked on some plants, but it's a lot of work. 10,000 plants, that's a lot of work.
Councillor Wheatland.
Thank you. You caught me on the hop there. Thank you for your presentation. And look, for me, the clearing permit's already been granted by DeWer to the Leeming Spartan Cricket Club. But I want to touch on something that you said about part of the clearing permit is that DeWer won't sign off on this until the revegetation has occurred. Is that what you said?
Absolutely correct. And more than that, you are correct that DeWer have given the approval, but if you don't accept the offset, you won't get the approval.
Okay.
So if you decide not to do the re-veg, you can't do the clearing.
So it's the financials around this in this current time that I'm concerned about. So I want to make sure that that I've got my head around it all. So the work that you're saying that your volunteers do, how many days at the lowest point would it take you to re-veg an area between September and October?
So our activities is to plant 300 plants a year. That would take an afternoon. But now we are watering, and that takes 4 hours every second weekend for 6 months of the year, if we were to do it. And a lot of people have stopped doing it, including myself. It's a lot of work. It's socially unsustainable, potentially environmentally unsustainable with the amount of water that's being used. It is a difficult thing to keep up. Current re-veg practice in Gondwana Link and other places, you put the plants in right first time. So we are now trying to do that, plant right first time. Rip the soil, do augering, put the nutrients in, put the Sentry on, walk away, come back next year and do another site.
Councillor Wheatland.
Thank you. So in your experience and based on what you and your friends group do, you're saying it could be quite impossible to achieve this or very expensive. I'm just trying to...
As I said, our best survival rate is 30%. Okay, with that sort of success, over 5 to 8 years, we have been able to do some moderate revegetation of some of these tracts. I showed you some of the photos, but that's been 3 or 4 or 5 times we've gone back there.
Councillor Green.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Wayon, I was just interested to know, is there Carnaby cockatoo habitat at Kenhurst Park currently? And if not, is that one of the key aspirations of the Friends of Kenhurst Park to achieve that?
Kenhurst Park has several attributes that make it a threatened ecological community. Bankshire woodland is one. The presence of Caladinia huglei is another. An area can be called a threatened ecological community irrespective of whether Carnaby's cockatoos make use of that site. That just adds a third protection level. So Carnaby's cockatoos is one, Bankshire woodland is another, Caladinia huglei is the third. Kenhurst Park has all three of those. There is no breeding of cockatoos in Kenhurst Park. There is no tall trees, there are no hollows, but they definitely do forage there. Carnaby's cockatoos go for Bankshires, and we have 4 different species of Bankshires there. We see cones all over the place. They also go for Jarrah, Eucalyptus marginata, pricklebark, Eucalyptus todtiana, marri. So they definitely make use of Kenhurst Park for foraging And roosting is another thing that they look for. There's no roosting trees in Kenner's Park, but there are surrounding areas that have taller trees.
Okay, and just a quick follow-up. One of your slides showed some blue lines to the south of the proposed cricket pitch area.
Yes, yes.
A significant area of woodland, which I think we're all aware is threatened TEC, threatened
Yes.
ecological community. But it's certainly my understanding that the area to be cleared to the west of is actually not TEC. So I'm just, and I think the 0.68 hectares is a figure that may have been revised down as well.
In terms of actual clearing proposed, maybe.
Clearing area.
The original approval was for 0.68 hectares.
Yeah, so I'm just, I guess I'm just curious as to your understanding of with that blue line that you had in your slide that was running through the area to the south.
Yes. Those blue lines, so if we're looking at the one that's got conclusion sheet one,
Yep.
those blue lines is a GPS tracker of me surveying for Caladinia huglei on that site.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then
Yep.
there are numbers on that diagram that shows where I found Caladinia huglei growing and in flower. So you
Okay.
can see how close they come to the proposed clearing area. They're not right in the clearing area, but they are potentially at risk. And that had the highest number of Caladinia huglei from that whole site.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Barber, did you have another question?
Yeah, just to follow up, if you wouldn't mind, Madam Mayor. And you made us, thank you, Mr. Wowon, again. You made a statement that the Carnabys don't, they roost at Kenhurst Park, but they don't roost.
No,
they
they don't
forage.
roost.
They forage.
They forage.
They don't roost. They
they don't
roost
roost or
in
don't
surrounding areas with taller trees. What surrounding areas would they
Well,
be?
maybe Murdoch Uni, areas that have got planted tall trees. Melville Glades Golf Course. Yeah.
Thanks. And then just a follow-up question about something you said was the Cook government have asked you to try and do something on the south side.
So as part of the election commitment last year,
Yeah.
there was grants to, I believe, every community group. And we elected to take the $25,000 that they offered and undertake planting on the south side of Kenner's Park, which is quite a different environment. It's beautiful, tall, very old paperbarks, maybe 30, 40 metres high, that are maybe 200 years old, in what used to be a damp land, but it's no longer wet. And there's a lot of degraded open space there. And what we're going to spend that $25,000 on is some much more intensive and new innovations in terms of planting.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wheat.
Thank you. Just to follow up from Councillor Green about the, so I don't believe you answered this part, the area that's been approved to be cleared by the clearing permit. I think Councillor Green asked if that is a threatened ecological community.
It is,
Thank
because
you.
it contains Banksia woodland.
Thank you.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Dr. Wowon, for your presentation, most informative. You have managed to, and your team have managed to plant 300 plants per annum. So who's proposed to plant the other 9,700 per annum? Do you have any idea? And I do have a follow-up question as well.
We are not participating in any of the Kenner's Park offset revegetation. That is not our role. We will keep on doing our 100 to 300 plants, irrespective of that, whether that happens. We are not contracted or been asked to assist in any of this proposed offset. We will do it if asked. We would help, definitely, but we are not being asked at this stage.
But can you do 9,700?
No, not with volunteer team, no.
And just follow-up question there. How long will it take for these seedlings to actually replace the canopy cover that's going to be removed?
Well, considering that some of the Banksias are 5 to 8 metres high, and the Banksia that I had growing in my front yard took 15 years to get that high, and then died 5 years later, I'm suggesting, 15, 20 years.
Thank you. Elected members, we've reached the end of our question time. We've reached the 5 minutes, so I'm going to ask you, if you have any further questions, can you please email them to Mr Wyong? He's giving his details out that we sent in the morning, and you can send all your questions to him, and they will be distributed to all elected members. Would that be the case? The answers would be distributed to the elected members? Yes. The officers will arrange that to happen. So you will receive, all of you will receive the replies to the questions that are asked offline. Okay, thank you. We're now on to the next deputation from Mr Laquerie, Mr B Hadley and Mr M Jones. Please come forward and make your deputation.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, elected members and officers of the City. My name's Adrian Laquerie. Unfortunately, Matthew Jones and Brett Hadley are on apologies today. Matthew's sick and Brett is working. However, I would like to acknowledge some life members I've brought along today from the Bull Creek Leaming Football Club, Dale Sutherland, David King and Michael Bardsley. I'm here representing the Bull Creek Leaming Junior and Senior Football Club combined, and it's 1,400 members. I would like to talk to the council and just brief them on our position in regards to the installation of cricket infrastructure as a potential option as part of the John Connell Reserve extension proposal. The club's position, as we have provided in writing on the 10th of February of 2026, is to strongly oppose this option. And we would like to reiterate the cricket club's position in strong objection to option 5 being Beasley Park, as they do not consider it a viable alternative in any capacity. The objection of the key users must hold strong account for this proposal, and we would like to ensure the councillors have heard our objection to this matter in person today. We'd also like to make some observations for the council agenda item that are either observations or we might have some queries as well that we would like to seek from the City. We note that the October 2025 meeting, there was a petition signed by 276 residents, and understand that there's some additional residents that have signed that petition. We would just like to understand the breakdown of the suburbs that these residents have come from, and do they reflect the actual local suburbs that relate to Bull Creek and Leaming? And then just wanted to note the timing in terms of tabling this petition, noting that it was council election period, and could that be considered a sensitive matter during that period? In regards to the engagement table outlined within the agenda report, we'd like to advise this does not include the positions of key funding stakeholders in local members for Jandakot and Riverton and federal member for Tangley. Both the state and federal members have provided, have confirmed to the club that they oppose any cricket infrastructure at Beasley Oval. And we feel that maybe this should be reflected a bit better in the agenda report. The football clubs have not been provided an option to support in the engagement table either, but for the record, we would like to advise that our support is for options 1 and options 2. Just some other considerations that we would like to note that under the Beasley Park option, there is no reference in terms to the costs of turf capital works required to improve the subsoil. If council is not aware that there are considerable issues at Beasley Oval in terms of the turf, the club has for the last few years paid the price for the heavy traffic which is on the reserve, but also a number of issues that are there for drainage and disease. And I understand that any cricket infrastructure would require at least a $2.1 million upgrade of the subsoil at Beasley Oval. These figures aren't currently considered in the officers' costings at the moment, and therefore we would request that this be reviewed. Other costs which may inflate these figures as well are the sports lighting upgrades. we feel like the sports lighting upgrades, if you compare that to the other options, then it doesn't provide a fair assessment when comparing Beasley, because obviously it'll come out that Beasley Oval would be a cheaper option from a life cycle costing. So we just want to make sure that council is aware of that. The location of the cricket infrastructure, the netting actually impacts the football training spaces, and so we have concerns around the actual design of where the positioning of cricket infrastructure has been proposed. Like I said before, drainage issues on the current ground has caused significant financial and operational impacts to the football club over the last 4 years. Beasley Oval requires significant turf works in the off-season, and this will actually impact the cricket club's ability to access the reserve at the start of the season. Just in terms of the club, we also have, we do actually use Peter Ellis as our secondary oval, and that does have a cricket pitch on there. So there is already a ground that we are disadvantaged by having a cricket pitch on our oval. We don't have any other further questions to ask of the council, but we're here just to make a statement in terms of making sure the city and the council understand our position against this option, but understand the officer's recommendation for option 2 has been outlined, and we fully support that option.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there questions from elected members? Councillor Spanbrook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. How's your name pronounced? Is it Laquier?
Laquier.
Laquier. Thank you for that. I noticed you mentioned about the ground conditioned and the 2.1 million that isn't included in the estimated costs. However, there is a mention of it later on in the report. So in saying that, there is clearly an issue with the condition of the ground. So at the moment, whereabouts are other footballers training, and also I'll ask you that one first. I've got a couple other follow-up that are all related. Thank you.
Thank you.
Currently, the club trains at a number of reserves. So we're at Bill Ellison on some nights, and we're also at Murdoch University for some of the pre-season. We have, obviously, in the past, we've had some issues with the ground not sustaining the football operations and football numbers that are at Beasley Oval, and so in the latter parts of the season, this has impacted us in hosting finals, playing games, having to relocate matches, and we are working with the city and their parks team to make sure that we do our bit to try and limit the amount of traffic on the ground where possible.
So normal circumstances, you would ideally, or you would be training at Beasley Park.
Yep.
So in saying that then, as you are training elsewhere, because you're obviously trying to look after it, so that way then you can have teams play at the weekends without actually damaging it. So if a cricket pitch were to be constructed on Beasley, how will this impact the ground and also the player impact as well with the turf? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we've documented this in our letter, but I haven't explained this today, but obviously any cricket pitch within a football oval is not ideal. It just raises the increase of injuries to players, the uneven surface. There are different hardness levels, and so depending on where you put the cricket pitch, and under the proposal, it's right in the centre circle where the rucks are, and that's a very critical location for football. We're concerned about player safety, and yes, there are other cricket pitches on other grounds, and we do acknowledge that. But it's not best practice to have cricket pitches sharing with football ovals. It's comes out of necessity sometimes with sharing out with other sports, but we feel that this ground has been a football ground for many years, and we'd like to make sure that that's retained. In terms of the maintenance requirements for cricket, obviously cricket has a lower profile turf requirement for playing cricket on, but the surface, come winter time and through our traffic, is heavily degraded. So there needs to be a fair bit of renovation work moving into a cricket season just to prepare the ground.
Just to follow up, if I may, Madam Mayor, to finish off. So with regard to your training in alternative grounds, so how is that impacting the actual training sessions? And also, because I understand that you also are taking the training outside of the City of Melville because the City of Melville cannot cope or cannot cater for the demands while you are nursing the ground. So just to make sure that it will be, in good condition at the weekends.
Well, obviously with 1,400 members, there comes a lot of teams from a juniors and a senior perspective. So we have Beasley Oval as our main ground for the juniors and seniors, and Peter Ellis, but both of those grounds get heavily utilised. And with our women's teams that are growing at both the junior and senior level, we just can't accommodate everyone on the one ground. So we are hiring other grounds outside the City of Melville, such as Murdoch University. We're working with the city's officers at Bill Ellison. But really, these are locations that are outside of our catchment area. It's not a great from a connection perspective for the club, and so we have to find that not everyone turns up to training. But yeah, there's some of the impacts, and financially, we've probably lost a significant amount of money by not being able to host finals because the ground hasn't been in a playable position, and so the Perth Football League have deemed our ground unsafe to play on in previous years. Now, we are working with the city, and that's why we're making these changes to manage the foot traffic, do more renovations on the ground, and hopefully that'll change this year.
Apologies, Madam Mayor. Oh, sorry, can I just ask, I forgot to include in the question as well, just with regard to the damage on the ground, if they were there, that's all, with what they have lost, because last season they were actually nursing the ground and obviously training elsewhere. So I'm just wanting to ask Mr. Lackier that if they did their normal training, how many games have they actually lost at Beasley Park?
Yeah, I think, Councillor, you've asked quite a few questions now. The best is, I think, if you submit the questions in an email to the Footy Club, and they'll be circulated in the morning. Are there any other elected members who wish to ask questions? Okay, all right. They're available. You're available for questions. They will be circulated to all elected members. Okay, thank you very much. Next deputation is from Ms S. Sibold. Please come forward to make your deputation.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, councillors and city officers. Thank you for providing this opportunity to speak. My name is Sally Sibold and I'm the lead petitioner of over 600 signatures for saving the bushland from clearing to extend the oval. As I've said before, I do not belong to any particular group or organisation, but I'm a resident of Melville and concerned about the catastrophic consequences of habitat destruction on native flora and fauna in the Perth Metro. I spoke on the subject last October in 2025, and since then have met with the President of the Cricket Club, Mr. Coombs, and city officers, and I acknowledge the thought, time and energy that has gone into this complex matter. I've read the 6 options being put forward by the officers to resolve the issue of finding space for another cricket pitch to accommodate the clubs and the increasing population. As noted before, petitioners are in favour of a second cricket pitch, but not at the expense of the remnant bushland corridor, which is a noted foraging and resting place for red-tailed and Carnaby cockatoos, and also a buffer to the threatened Banksia woodlands. It's noted that some of the options have no clearing required. Option 3, which seeks to simply reconfigure the existing fields at John Connell to achieve an additional cricket field, which still comes at a cost. Option 5, to look at developing and enhancing Beasley Park a kilometre away, which I understand is not popular, but to a standard required was 308,000, but I'm assuming that's not correct after listening. The petitioners signed for option 4, which would be a significant cost but would achieve the best outcome for the whole community and involve remediating and significantly upgrading the wasteland area. More facilities, fields, car parks, toilets and access roads would be the desired outcome. If funds could be channeled into rectifying any perceived issues around the wasteland area in terms of its height and with the offset avoided, this would be a great asset for the wider population for years to come and preserve that precious bushland. What is proposed in options 1 and 2 will come at great expense to the environment and triggers an offset required at Kenhurst Reserve, namely a whopping 7.34 hectares of re-veg. This re-veg will be costly, unlikely to achieve the growth and survival rate being required by DUA, and will require many council staff and volunteers' time and energy over some years to undertake this massive task. The offset is significant because the bushland corridor is so valuable. While some may see degraded scrub, the truth is there are few areas within the City of Melville with a high number of grass trees, mature natives and wildflowers that grow within this corridor of bushland. Remnant bushland is disappearing in piecemeal fashion across the metro. These places cannot be replicated and have taken years to establish. Re-veg is not a quick fix and not a simple task. A couple of long dry summers will likely see most of the re-veg die off, and I believe water for the plants to Kenhurst will need to be trucked in. I would urge the Council, when voting on this very important matter, to consider that the Aboriginal Advisory Group said on many different occasions, when asked to comment, do not destroy the bushland. Further, consider an option with the least impact to the environment and cockatoo population. If there is a vote to clear, I would urge the Council to commit to replacing the bushland corridor further back from the oval with a food source trees for cockatoos as a matter of priority. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from elected members? Councillor Barber.
Thank you, Ms Sibold. You always give really great deputations. Look, I've got another left field question. Known for asking these. I'm quite critical of groups like the Sadlerley Group, I shouldn't name names, who clear hectares and hectares of land in the metropolitan area for housing developments. Do you ever give deputations like this and at those sort of situations? Because as I understand it, this is, I don't know, it was 0.68, and I get cross because these developers just razz our beautiful bushland, and yet this is, we're talking, I think it's down to something 0.38 of a hectare. Do you ever, in your groups, ever, lobby the state government about that sort of thing?
On a personal side, yes, I'm always writing to ministers about a lot of things to do with bushland clearing, but I'm not an expert on it. I just know what I know. I don't know. You have to ask the state government. I believe there was a massive clearing. The Glen Iris estate was had over 10,000 signatures, but when it comes down to it, it's the state government overruled everybody there. So. They need housing. I'm just worried about the Pinjar Forest will be the next, so all the, forgive me here, the Christmas trees, all the Christmas trees that grow there, they'll be the next ones that will be on the endangered list. So, yeah, sorry if I'm not an expert.
Councillor Wheatland.
Thank you, and thanks for your deputation, Sally, or Ms. Sibold, Sally. Look, I'm just really interested in that last paragraph when you said a further consideration for an option to commit to replacing the bushland corridor further back from the oval with food source trees for cockatoos. Is it your, with that comment, did you want that to start soon in preparation if the council decides to clear that offset?
Well, I think that wasteland should really have had some planting done years ago, to be honest. It's just sat there and in the too hard basket. It's not for me to say why, but what I'm just saying is, okay, it's up to you guys, but if you decide you're going to go ahead with this, what can you do to keep a corridor from the threatened Banksia woodlands through to the roosts where we know the cockatoos roost of a night time?
Councillor Green.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Ms Sibold, for your deputation. I was just following on from Councillor Wheatland's question, actually, about that last paragraph in your deputation. Could you just clarify exactly where you meant in terms of bushland corridor further back from the oval?
Please use your microphone.
Yeah.
You've got the oval, they're going to remove that whole section. So maybe you have to start planting on the wasteland.
So to immediately adjacent to what's going to be cleared.
Yes.
Okay.
And
No worries.
try and mitigate, do something with the wasteland that's just sitting there with no trees on it hardly. You could start doing something like that.
Okay.
Just
Thank
a
you.
thought. Is that it?
Are there any other questions from elected members? Councillor Spanbrook?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks very much for your deputation. The Department of Water and Environment Regulation, they actually put out they published any opposition to the clearing permit. This is last year, and I was just trying to find it now. How much notice they gave the public. I'm not sure if it's 21 days, 28, 35. So I'm just wanting to know that, did you actually submit an application opposing that clearing application? Thank you.
Sorry, did I submit?
Yes.
No, I didn't know anything about it. I just heard about it when it
Okay,
gone through.
thank you.
Sorry.
And so also, you just made a comment that you're not an expert. So is this just a passion of yours, just with, like retaining bushland?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're not an
I'm a
environmentalist?
citizen scientist, if you like. So there's a lot of very passionate people that don't want to see cockatoos go extinct, which is on the cards. And it's this kind of piecemeal removal which will see that happen.
Thank you. And just one last question. I'm not sure if you've seen it. You may have had access to it. That the City of Melville have had environmental assessments or seasonal environmental assessments on that area. And I'm just wondering whether you're able to actually get a chance to review the actual environmental assessment.
Yeah, I have read them. Yeah, I think the first one I didn't think was very good, but. I don't know what is the question. What are you trying to?
So the question is that did you note that there were no threatened ecological communities actually highlighted or identified in that report? Are you aware of that?
Are you talking about there is a section of very, very good to excellent threatened bankshire woodland in the corner that's going to get cleared?
But it also states that there aren't any threatened ecological communities. Within that clearing.
I think we probably need to move on. Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Sibbald, for the deputation. I've just wondered if you have to be an expert to understand that removing mature trees will take 20 or 30 years to replace when replanted with seedlings. Do you have to be an expert to understand that?
Absolutely not. I think that's just common sense.
Okay, thank you. We've almost reached the end of the question time. So thank you very much for the questions. Thank you for your deputation. Now we have the last deputation for this item. It's from Mr. P. Coombs. Please come forward to make your deputation.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. Back here again. As you're aware, I'm Peter Coombs, the President of the Leeming Spartan Cricket Club. Our membership, including our junior membership, and the President's here behind me, and Rebecca Ernst, numbers somewhere between 1,500 to 1,800. We're an old club. We're 108 years old. We were established, for those who don't know, for our Return Service League people from the First World War to battle depression. We've operated at John Connell for 40 years, since 1986. To my knowledge, over the last 25 years, we've seen countless independent master plans, ARIAS reports, consultants, reports and reports compiled, all at financial costs, but nothing has happened in relation to this matter. Nothing has eventuated. The entire area of John Connell Reserve, including the area of this extension, is designated as recreational by the state government. I think it covers some 60, 70 hectares, including the golf course. Our quest for the John Connell Development Plan, including the Oval extension, has been in train for some 36 years by our club, with me for the last 10. The plan was to develop a second cricket field, 2 extra soccer fields, renovation of change rooms, relocate and upgrade cricket practice nets, and relocate the centre wicket and construct a second cricket pitch. It was during this period that we sat with the Commission at the City of Melville and a 5-phase plan was developed. In short, phase 1 was to renovate the old change rooms to cater for girls, boys and adult females and integrated players. That was completed. The club raised $725,000 for that project. We worked hand in glove with the City of Melville and it's a showcase result. Phase 2, relocate and construct 4 new cricket practice nets. That's completed. This was solely paid for by the cricket club through grants and fundraising. It included designs, engineering, surveying, government approvals and constructed by the cricket club. Phase 3 applies to the clearing permit. This was completed by myself and it was permitted and lodged by the cricket club, and we sat hand in hand with the city and Jeff Bird and his team. Phase 4 is what we're here to do, is to extend the playing fields to the east, and phase 5 to construct the 2 concrete centre cricket wickets. The John Connell Development Plan was approved in principle by the city many years ago. With each phase, we sat with the city and worked together in moving through each phase. This is over the last 10 years. As a club, and with the city's approval, we applied for and obtained a number of state and federal grants for the John Connell Development Plan, totaling to some $1.5 million. The club itself has also invested approximately $70,000 of its own funds, along with well over 1,000 hours of voluntary work and a further in-kind funding of approximately $100,000 from a number of sponsors and companies. The developments have been achieved and have become the property of the city and for general use for the whole community. Our day-to-day working relationship with the city over the last 10 years has been very strong and positive relationship at all levels, and the outcomes to date have been extremely high. You have heard me say previously the critical lack of the ability of cricket and soccer playing fields, not only in the City of Melville, but in all councils across the Greater Perth area. This is borne out by the lack of options outside 1 and 2 that are before you. The need of this extension is real and urgent. We are all very aware of the absolute importance of playing sport has on our community in reducing issues of health, wellness, relationships, employment, crime, drug use, antisocial behaviour, depression and suicide, providing role models and mentors. You as councillors deal with putting in place preventative measures on these very issues. Playing sport and sporting clubs are at the top of the tree in reducing and minimising these rapidly growing issues. We are now in final phase 4 and 5 of the John Connell Development Plan. After receiving the costings breakdown, I've distributed in front of you a revamp of the costings of option 1 and 2. A revamp of the costings is laid out, and I can go into that in more detail. The bottom line is, if we remove the light towers on option 1 at a cost of $811,000, and we remove the light towers on option 2 at a cost of $1.225 million, it leaves us with a revised cost for you to approve of $1.754 million and $1.709 million, far reduced from what's before you. I strongly believe it will all work together, the city, the clubs, the environmental people, and a real opportunity exists. You've heard from them today to develop a tremendous area for the community and the environment that we would be all proud of. We're talking about 0.35 hectares. I know the cost to finish the project and move forward is more than what we first started out with, but we know the benefits that this project will bring, not only in the immediate time, but for many, many years to come. And if it saves one life or puts a young person back on the right path, assists in any way during tough periods of people in all ages, it will be worth every single cent. I ask you to approve the funding and provide a real meaningful outcome for the future and the community of the environment, and just get on with the job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Councillor Whitland.
Hey, thank you, and thanks for your presentation.
Thanks, Karen.
I just got one question around the clearing permit. There's a lot tied up in the clearing permit with you guys as the holder, in my head, on behalf of the City of Melville. So I just want to understand how the club's role in that is going to play out, considering that you guys hold the legal responsibility for the permit if it's not completed, and how has that been communicated to your members? And, you know, like, I just want to understand that side of it, please, Peter.
Yes, we communicate strongly. We sit with the people of the City of Melville with a mini task force, if you like, for sake of another word, and we meet, wouldn't say regularly, but every second month, I suppose, we've done over the last 6 months. So we're staging it out. We're not, this is not my clearing permit. We are, it's in my name, but it's done and controlled together with the city, with the community. I would love nothing better to sit with the environment people and the people behind me and Sally I've met with, and between that group, we could get this working well. We are not clearing all the land as defined by the clearing permit. We're not doing the 0.68 hectares. We've reduced that. We are keeping the taller trees that you've heard today. None of the taller trees are being removed. And we are keeping the natural corridor going. And then we can develop other planting areas outside of, in addition to Kenhurst Park, along Diamond Road, or where Sally has mentioned around the tip, or at the eastern end of the tip. There's already corridors at the southern end of the oval. We could make something really special together. Oh, I forgot.
I just want to just reiterate. So it's my understanding that the Leeming Spartan Cricket Club, on behalf of the City of Melville, applied for the permit, and the cost of the revegetation of the offset would probably fall to the City of Melville. But I think it's my understanding that the legal responsibility sits with Leeming Spartan Cricket Club, and I just wondered if you looked at that at all, because I think that could be a concern if it's not realised, is what I'm trying to say. If the revegetation is not realised.
I think that the legal responsibility doesn't shift from the city or the state or individual legislations and things that are, you know, occupational health and safety. It's not just a matter of a clearing permit and it sits with the person named. I think we all have ownership of it and responsibilities. Yeah.
Yeah, Councillor Robbins.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I've got 3 questions, but I'll take direction from you about whether to ask all at once or just one at a time. Thanks, Mr Coombs, for your presentation. Really appreciate it. Can you provide a commitment that the club is willing to allocate the remainder of the federal grant to the city for this project?
That's what we hold the federal money for, this project. And yes, it's not like we're going to go and spend it on something else. We can't do that. It's for. I'll give you the what answer your question a bit better. The grant, which I've got in front of me, is approved and given to the Leeming Spartan Cricket Club. The activities under 3.2, the grant to be used for the project of the John Connell Development Plan, John Connell Reserve Development Project, not just the oval extension, but the reasons are prepare site including clear and level areas to the east and west of the existing playing fields, construct retaining walls around the oval extension, install reticulation, lay lawn to areas to the east and west of the existing playing fields, lay concrete base to 4 wicket practice nets and 2 centre wickets, install synthetic turf to nets and 2 centre wickets, install 4 bay cricket practice nets and chain wire and poles. That's what the money's for.
Councillor Robbins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. through you. Just a question about the revamp of costings that you've provided here. I note that this removes the $1.3 million for the offset. Could you just explain why you've taken that out? Is that because you proposed?
No, what's before you in the recommendation by your people outlines that the offset 1.3 is the area of the City of Melville. It's not part of the John Connell Development Plan. So the offset doesn't, the cost of the offset doesn't come into our grant. Ours is purely the extension.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. And just my last question. Given that community cricket can be played on a 50-metre boundary, could you just explain to me the issues the club has with option 3 as presented in the report?
The 50-metre boundary for senior cricket, that's the boundary for junior, under 12s. To put that in more sense, if you follow cricket and the one days and the T20s, there's just inner circle. There's a boundaries and then there's an inner circle. That inner circle is 40 metres. So to have a 50-metre boundary, probably every second ball will be going for 6, and it becomes a nonsensical. It's not, it's not standard.
Councillor Green.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Coombs, I was wondering if you might have an understanding with regarding to the clearing permit. I presume it was 4.68 hectares, but we're now down to 0.35.
Sorry to interrupt, it's 0.68 hectares, but we're not clearing 0.68 hectares. It's come down to 3.5, I think it is.
Yeah, and so what I'm just wondering is that we've heard some concerns about the success probability of replanting in Kenhurst. With your understanding of the clearing permit, and your discussions previously, would you think that there may be some leeway in that 70% success condition that they had in the clearing permit, given that you would now only be clearing 0.35 hectares instead of 0.68?
I think that's a very good and valid question. How can I answer that? Because it's a document presented by DEWA. What I can say, looking at the Kenhurst people's presentation, they're doing a tremendous job out there. I didn't see too many dead plants. I think if anyone's going to achieve the goal, it would be these people, ably suited by the city with proper support mechanisms. And I think if they could do that, pushing aside, it'd be giving them the 1.3 million just to do that. I think it's brilliant. I think it would be in good professional hands.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Councillor Wheatland.
Thank you. Just another question on your costs, and I appreciate you've revamped the costings from the club's perspective. We're in a global fuel crisis at the moment and costs are going up for infrastructure across the board. We've already got change room upgrades being impacted by that from election commitments from last year. I want to know if you factored that into this, and have you got a cash contingency plan to address the rising costs, because there has been no mention of any state funding or further federal funding, so I just want to understand that as well.
Just so
Peter.
We're clear, those costings that are before you aren't my costings. They're the costings presented by your people. Yeah, and if you go to their report that's before you, 5.0 estimated costs, and they lay out the options. So I'm just pulling these figures that you've got into a more, explain my position to bring it down to 1.75. So option 1 by the council, I think it's on page 356 of your documents.
I'm talking about your costings that we would give in our handout.
Yeah, that's a cut and paste from 0.5. Yeah, they're not my costings. And you'll see the option 1, 4.315 million is option 1, and I've taken off the 1,300 and I've taken off the lights, but those figures are created by Dean Burton and his team. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Barber.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr Coombs, for your presentation. And look, thank you to yourself, the club, for the concessions that you're obviously trying to make, changing the 0.68 to 0.35, keeping the mature trees, all of that I think is admirable. I do have a question about your concession to remove the lighting. When we were given an information session by the city officers, I brought up, could we remove the lighting to save costs? And the response to me was no, because the lights are in a particular place where they'd have to be moved. So and the soccer club would need the lights for their night games. So could you explain to me why you think the lighting can be removed?
The lights in their current position have been there for many years. They were upgraded 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. There's 4 towers. They're purely for the soccer fields. We don't use lights at all in summer. We never turn them on. They're not part of our makeup. The location is for the soccer fields. They will not, in their current location, impede a second cricket oval. We can work around that, just like we can work around the trees. If in 3 or 4 years' time it became an issue, well, we could revisit that as a standalone government grant and develop that idea. It's not a game changer for this project. The $2 million, or the 1.2 and the 800 that it's listed on this for immediate funding is not required.
Okay, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr Coombs, for your presentation and your contribution to your club. I am still confused by the removal of the $1.3 million. Who will be paying that $1.3 million?
That's again, I'll go back to your costings as outlined by the people of Melville, City of Melville.
It still has to be incurred, though.
Yeah, but that's I can't answer that question. You need to ask that question to the officers.
So
I don't know where it's come from.
So in terms of the 1.3 plus the 1.7, what you're asking is for the ratepayers to pay $2 million towards this project. Is that correct?
No, for option 1, I'm asking 1.754, and option 2 is to approve the 1.709.
But in order for the project to progress, 1.3 million has to be spent on revegetation.
Yes.
So it had to be added to, not.
I understand what you're saying, but that's what we're here for. That's for a decision for you people. It's not for me.
Right. And just one other question. Can you guarantee that the $1.3 million will be sufficient to revegetate Kenhurst Park and provide the same level of canopy cover? Can you guarantee that?
I can't guarantee that, no.
Thank you.
It's silly.
Councillor Spanbrook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks very much, Peter. With regard to both clubs, I understand that both of them are full. So can you give the council some understanding of like how many people you've had to turn away, juniors, perhaps you've even lost generations, actually playing cricket or soccer, and including women and females, please.
Yes, it's a real urgent, and I emphasise it's urgent. We have turned away teams. And to quantify a figure on it, on a senior level, it would be hundreds. We're looking at women's growth. For example, our juniors women, junior girls have reached, when they reach an age, I think it's when they turn 18, they can't play juniors, but there is no competitions available to them to play. So once a junior girl reaches that age, her cricket life is over. There's nothing to go to because of grounds, because of clubs, and it's just not confined to the city of Melville, it's across the board. Then we look at the T20 competitions, the influx of growth in the area, and it's again not just within this city, it's in the city of Coburn, it's in all the, we operate all through the south of Perth. Next season it's going to get even further complicated, whether we maintain 4 ovals within the city of Melville. John Connell's our home oval, we're a big club, and we potentially could lose Weber Reserve, so we're down to 3 ovals, which means we'll have to drop 2 teams and send them away. But it's not like they can go to another club because they have the same problem.
To follow up, please, Madam Mayor, if I may, because just the discussion has been on lighting. So I understand that the cricket does not have a demand for lighting because you're plenty of daylight, obviously. So then with the lighting, I understand that it's the soccer club that prefer the lighting. Is that actually for games, for competition, or is that for training? Thank you.
No, it's purely for them, it's purely for training. And again, it's a result of overlapping to fit the lack of grounds, to fit different codes. You've heard of the football club, and that's one of the options which wouldn't be a viable thing for us. The soccer then do their training at 7 at night to cater for us finishing at 6:30 at 7 o'clock at night. So when we finish our training, they start their training, and so they need the lights. They turn the lights on. They don't play competitions under lights. The lights that are there are not to Australian standards, which you could play. They would need stronger luminance, I think the right word is, to play. Then for competitions in our association, they wouldn't approve games under lights. A T20 competition is a different type of thing. So it's a problem.
I've got two elected members who want to ask questions, and then we'll finish. We're well over our 5 minutes now. Councillor Woodall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr Coombs, for your presentation. Just a question to come back around this costings that you've provided, and I note the comments about the revegetation amount being removed. It appears to me that your costings don't include potential state government funding for community sports infrastructure, which in the officer recommendation notes that there may potentially be up to $1.7 million of state government, additional state government funding. Is it correct that you've not included that in your figures?
No, I've got to reiterate again that these figures are a cut and paste from your figures. What we do moving forward, from a club perspective, we're very active in federal and state grants. We're, as I laid out originally, for these first 2 phases of this development plan, we obtained 1.5 million in grants across federal and state areas. That door is very much open, and the issue of lights, if it becomes an issue, it may be we need some more development or more gap filling on these phase 4 and 5. We would go for grants.
Thank you. So, and just if I may follow up, Madam Mayor, so just to clarify then, if the city was to receive additional state government funding, that would bring the revised costs in your estimate down even further because it's not been included at the moment.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. And just a final question, if I may, just around the talk about revegetation and the work that the volunteers are doing and whatnot. If there is an opportunity that arises for the club to be involved in an informal volunteer capacity, would the club be happy to circulate that opportunity to its members and to take part in those replanting efforts?
Yeah, it's absolutely. And I want to make this very clear, one of the frustrating aspects of the last 10 years of this, it's not them against us. I'm an environmentalist. We're together. This is our community. There is real sound reasons about wellness, about kids getting them out of all the troubles they're in, suicides, all these things. We must come together on this and sit and get this project completed and create a beautiful place with trees, with birds, with kangaroos. We have kangaroos on our oval all the time. It's an amazing place.
Thank you. Councillor Ross, last elected member question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Coombs, is your club, or is this club, restricted in terms of membership to only ratepayers in the city of Melville, or is it open to anyone from anywhere? And what percentage would you say, if it's open to everyone, what percentage would you say were ratepayers, and what percentage are outsiders?
I don't have those figures. We are open to everybody. That's what sporting clubs are. We don't have boundaries. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, where John Connell sits to the east fence line is the city of Canning. To our southern fence line, which is Roe Highway, is the city of Coburn. Our pocket of the actual John Connell Reserve is right at the toe end bottom of the city of Melville. So yes, they come from other areas. What that figure is, I don't know.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, as I said, our question time is well and truly over. If you have any further questions, Mr. Coombs would be happy to take to respond to those, and of course they will be distributed to all elected members. So we need to move on. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Burton, Acting Director of Community Development, will now provide a short officer presentation. Mr. Bird will also accompany him. Jeff Edwards is also accompanying. You've got a good support team there, Mr. Burton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just wait till the first slide's up on the screen. Thank you. I just wanted to make a quick point that this is a very short presentation. There is obviously a significant amount of information in the item and the business case, and also expecting a few questions as well from the elected members.
Madam Mayor, sorry to interrupt. Mr. Burton, can you just speak into your microphone a bit louder? Thank you.
I'll put that up higher, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Spanbrook. So just in terms of background, as Mr. Coombs mentioned, this is obviously a project, or a part of a project that the club has obviously been advocating for a significant amount of time. But notably, some key points. In March 2022, the Leeming Spartan Cricket Club received a federal election commitment from the member of Tagney, Sam Lim, of $650,000 to relocate the cricket nets, which was completed in 2025, and also to undertake the field extension, which is this proposal as he outlined in his deputation. At the June 2022 Ordinary Council meeting, Council resolved to provide authorisation to the President of the Leeming Spartan Cricket Club to submit a vegetation clearing application for an area of 0.65 hectares to the east of the existing playing fields to accommodate the oval extension to the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation. And also part of that was to advise the club that it is their city's preference to work in conjunction with the clubs to manage the planning, design and construction works associated with the oval extension should this proceed. Then last year in June, the DEWA, or Department of Water and Environmental Regulation, had advised that the clearing permit was successful, with obviously a number of conditions which Mr. Bird will go through in a moment. And subsequently, the city has obviously prepared a business case and a report for council's consideration. And as was outlined previously, in October 2025, there was 276 residents and 38 non-residents submitted a petition. There was obviously some further signees after that to basically not remove the trees for the field extension. Just next slide, please. Just hand over to Mr. Bird for this one.
Yeah, just some key points. I thought a lot of the information's already been provided. 0.68 hectares, no more than, can be cleared at the John Connell site. I just wanted to clarify the subject of the TEC that's been discussed a bit tonight. When we had our consultant carry out the survey in 2020, they did not believe that the area qualified as TEC. And we've also done a bit of background research into the size of the area. The 0.68 is too small, and the condition is not in a condition that will trigger the TEC criteria. Just to clarify that. The clearing of the vegetation must take place before the 23rd of July 2027, and construction works on the oval extension would need to commence no later than 3 months after the land has been cleared. Obviously, the revegetation and rehabilitation plan would take place at Kenhurst Park. The offset area is a total of 7.34 hectares. Of that 7.34 hectares, 1.63 hectares requires significant planting to occur, as these areas have low vegetation cover. The remaining areas would be focused mainly on weed control. Within 12 months of the clearing of the land to make way for the oval extension, if it was to proceed, the revegetation and rehabilitation work needs to commence. And there is an option to ask DEWA for an extension to the clearing permit. This is quite common, so if there was any delays, this is something that we could look as an avenue. Thanks.
Within the business case and council item, there were 6 options. This is just a very short summary of each of those options. So the first option is the original concept, which was prepared by the club back in 2022. The inclusions to this is the field extension to the east, which obviously results in clearing. The outcome would be 2 60-metre cricket fields, 4 senior soccer fields, the 100 Lux sports lighting, and also cut and fill and returfing to the western portion of the existing reserve to expand the area to enable both soccer and cricket to be played. The estimated cost, which includes the $1.3 million to revegetate, is $4.31 million for this option. And it requires approximately 0.53 hectares of clearing, which is subject to a detailed design process. This option is supported by the Cricket Club, but isn't supported by the Leeming Striker Soccer Club, mainly due to the existing pitches being smaller than their requirement. It also is obviously not supported by the environmental groups, and when the city has gone through the development of the draft John Connell Master Plan, the Whadjuk Noongar Reference Group also opposed any vegetation clearing. Next slide, please. The second option, which is the revised August 2025 concept, which was presented by the club as part of a deputation, includes obviously the field extension to the east, 1 60-metre cricket field, 1 55-metre cricket field, also 4 senior soccer fields, 100 Lux lighting, and the cut and fill and returfing, as mentioned before. The estimated overall cost is $4.68 million, which obviously includes the $1.3 million worth of vegetation costs. At this point in time, the concept design looks at 0.55 hectares of clearing. I know Mr. Coombs mentioned, I think the figure was 0.38. Obviously, this is subject to detailed design. There are opportunities to reduce. However, this may impact obviously the soccer fields that are in the east. Notably, this option is supported by both the Cricket Club and Soccer Club, and not supported by the environmental groups and John Connell Whadjuk Noongar Reference Group. I just wanted to make clear, and in regards to the lighting that Mr. Coombs mentioned as part of his deputation, and I respectfully disagree with the comments around removing the lighting. The reconfiguration of the soccer fields and obviously cricket fields, The existing lighting there is 100 lux, which is obviously supports training and can support competition. In order to restructure the field locations, those poles actually get in the way. As a result, the intent would be to provide 100 lux lighting to enable those soccer clubs to continue training and continue what they're doing. Option 3, no clearing required. So this is an option that uses the existing footprint of the reserve. It requires field reconfiguration, which the best outcome is 2 50-metre cricket fields, 4 senior soccer fields, 100 lux lighting, cut and fill and returfing. The estimated cost is 2.1 million. Importantly, this option isn't supported by cricket nor the soccer club. The fields, particularly with the soccer club, are reduced in width, which obviously impacts their playing experience. And as per the current concept design, it works out to be 18 metres less in terms of width for their closest field to the clubhouse. Next slide, please. Option 4 is the option that Mr. Wahong brought up on the slide, which is the former landfill site, which is directly east of John Connell Reserve. This one would allow for 1 additional cricket field, so 1 existing field which is at John Connell and then 1 on the landfill site, 2 senior soccer fields, 100 lux sports lighting, car park, change rooms and toilets. The estimated cost of this is 10.88 million. There's some challenges with this option. One, we're unaware if we're able to get groundwater to irrigate the reserve and a licence to extract. This is obviously a former landfill site, and there are we have identified some costs to address the contamination in terms of the developable area. However, it should be noted that the area that the proposed oval could be on is part of a 12-hectare broader site. And when you are looking to remediate and get approvals, DEWA may require the city, if this option was to proceed, to remediate the broader 12 hectares of the site, which hasn't been included into the costs. This option hasn't been supported by the cricket or the soccer club, mainly due to the location being disjointed from the existing facilities, and also the conditions of where that proposed oval is. It's actually elevated and it can get very windy up there, which would obviously impact the playing experience for cricket and soccer people. Option 5 is Beasley Park. This would look at including a new synthetic cricket pitch and a 2-lane cricket practice net. The estimated cost is $308,000. Noting that out there, and this was obviously outlined by Mr. Lacquier around in his deputation, there are turf challenges due to sting, nematode and basandine soils. Importantly, I know there was a cost discussed of around $2 million. So that information was not in the council item, but it is within the business case. This $2 million was a cost that was identified back in 2024, which would look to eradicate the sting nematode, and the only way to do that is basically removing the full turf of the oval and relaying turf. But if you were to do that to address the basandine soil issue, which causes drainage, you'd look to put in an underground drainage system, and that was an order of magnitude, a cost of around $2 million back in 2024. However, it hasn't been included in the estimated cost for this. Importantly, this option doesn't enhance the sporting space for soccer, and as outlined, it's not supported by cricket. Both the football clubs and obviously the soccer club wouldn't be supportive of this. The 6th option, as any business case, is retain the status quo. This obviously doesn't meet the outcomes sought by the clubs, and obviously it was mentioned that available playing space is an issue moving forward. Next slide, please. And Mr. Bird mentioned this previously. So should council support options 1 or 2, the timeline to meet the clearing permit the 23rd of July 2027 is significantly tight or very challenging. Notably, we're in the concept. We've developed concept designs for this. There are a number of approvals, detailed designs, further consultation. If this option was to proceed, that would have to happen. And the sort of 12 to 14 months to make that happen with a procurement process would be extremely challenging. Hence, part of the proposed recommendation by the officers is to seek an extension should option 2 be supported. Local state members of parliament have expressed an interest in supporting the field extension, and there has been some early discussions to provide a level of funding have occurred, but no commitments obviously officially have been made. And as a result of that, typically for these type of projects, the state government's Community Sport and Recreation Facilities Fund, or CSRFF as it's commonly called, is currently on hold and would generally provide a level of external funding. That being said, and the advice from the state government is to ask the question around additional funding. So we've taken a methodology utilising the CSRFF where we would be potentially eligible to apply for up to 50% of the project costs, excluding the revegetation of 1.3. And importantly, and I think there's a revised figure, but at the time when we consulted with the cricket club, they outlined that they had about $470,000 remaining in the federal government grant that was provided in 2022. Next slide, please. So this is obviously the officer's recommendation, and the intent of these is that, recommendations 1 to 3 need to sort of simultaneously occur for the project to proceed, but first one is obviously seeking and receiving a suitable amendment to the clearing permit timeframes in order to deliver the project. Obviously, we can't necessarily ask for an amendment at the moment on the basis that we don't know if Council 1 supports it, but also, as per the recommendation, if that was to proceed, that external funding is questionable at the moment. Negotiating with the Leaming Spartans Cricket Club and the federal government to reallocate the remaining grant. That grant is within the cricket club's name. We haven't had a direct discussion around that, but I would anticipate that if this was to proceed, the club would work with us. They have done to date. Seek an amount of 50% of the estimated project costs, which doesn't include the revegetation costs from the state government, which is currently in line with the inactive CSRFF program. If those 3 things to occur, and including the revegetation costs, the city would need to allocate an estimated amount of just over $2.5 million to complete the project, which obviously includes that revegetation. Given that those 3 things above haven't been confirmed, the timing of that is unknown, but it wouldn't be expected that it would be in 26, 27 or impact that budget. And then, as mentioned before, there was an item at the October 2025 council meeting where a petition was provided, and as part of that, we would obviously let the lead petitioner know, Mr. Bold, of the outcome of council's decision potentially next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions to the officers? We've got a few. Councillor Robbins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My first question is just to reframe the question asked by Ms Corbyn during question time earlier this evening. What will be the impact of rates on the adoption of option 2?
Mr Tuffin, are you able to answer that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's quite difficult to actually put a number on it at the current time because the budget hasn't been set. But if we work off the basis that every 0.5% is $600,000, you can divide that by that amount to get an approximate rate increase.
Thank you. Councillor Barber.
Sorry, did you finish, Councillor Robbins?
I've got a few questions, but I can wait till everyone else has asked theirs.
Okay, thanks. Well, perhaps I'll just follow on the same tack as the rate thing. The revegetation, the 1.3 mil, that would be over a number of years, would it, Mr Bird, or would it be in one budget year, or would it go over a few years?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, that would go over a number of years, up to about 5 years is what we're anticipating at this point.
Just probably you, Mr Bird, again. We've heard from our deputies tonight that Kenhurst Park, well, I heard that is very difficult to grow things. Whose decision was this? Was this ours or was this, what's it, Dewer's?
Yeah, thank you through the chair. This was the city's decision. We had to find a suitable offset location at a size that would meet DEWA's criteria. So 7.36 hectares is a significant piece of area to revegetate. And looking across the city, this was the only option that we could find that would meet their criteria. And it's in close proximity to the clearing site as well, which is an advantage.
Is it worth following up with them and just letting them know? We've had experts here tonight say they've had a 0 to 30% success rate, that maybe they should revisit the 70% success rate?
Thank you through the chair. I don't know if we're in a position to challenge the state government on their criteria. And I don't disagree with what the deputations raised previously. A 30% success rate in these areas is a good result. But again, the state sets the guidelines, and I don't think I'm in a position to challenge that.
And just finally, just thank you and for your, something that really bothers me is why haven't we utilised that empty space area, the old rubbish tip? Well, why has it been laying dormant there for probably, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 years, when we could have been planting Banksias over there and then this wouldn't have been a problem? So question, why haven't we, although you probably can't answer that, but when will we, is my next question.
Through the chair, I can only add to my time in the city of Melville. I know the city tried to work with the state in a development proposal for the site. That was about 10 years ago, and that fell through for whatever reasons. In terms of when are we or why can't we plant, we can, I guess, do work in that space, but there would have to be some serious remediation works that would have to take place. I don't know if Jeff or Dean might be able to add to that.
Thank you. Councillor Robbins, did you? Oh, sorry, Dean. Sorry, Mr. Burton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Councillor Barber. Yeah, through the chair. So currently the city has obviously developed a draft John Connell master plan, which includes a vision for the overall site and that landfill site in particular. The challenge as part of that works was identifying what the remediation costs would be to meet those requirements. At the moment, we're working through that, and we're anticipating that hopefully sometime next year, calendar year, that we'll bring back something to council that advises what the potential cost is to remediate based on that vision that was in the draft master plan.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Robbins, did you want to finish asking your questions?
Yes, can I just clarify? Should I just keep asking until you stop me? Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so I think you mentioned, Dean, but the 0.35 hectares was thrown around a lot tonight, but that's incorrect. It's 0.55 hectares, is that correct?
Through the chair, so the club has developed a plan which is within the business case, and they have calculated obviously 3.38 hectares, I believe is the correct number. However, the city has obviously provided those concept plans that are also in the report, and based on allowing a field in the, I'm just trying to get my bearings right, in the eastern portion of the reserve to fit a fourth soccer pitch, 0.55 is the area that would be required to clear on that basis of that plan. However, there might be options to trim that down slightly over the course of the detailed design period.
Great, thank you. And do you know exactly how many trees will need to be removed for option 2?
Through the chair, it depends on exactly what the final layout of the oval extension and how much bushland that would take up. But when we did some assessments early on, we recognized about 210 trees are in that space. Now, when I say 210 trees, you consider a grass tree a tree, you know, not necessarily, but there's 46 of those in there, so we just wanted to highlight those. So there's a significant amount of trees, and The size varies significantly there's 2 larger trees in there, right down to some trees that are, from 0 to 5 meters in height.
Thank you. Just a question about the CSRFF funding. So I believe that funding has ceased to exist, no longer available. So what is the state government funding pool that we'll be seeking an allocation from for option 2?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Through the chair. So in consultation with the state government, we've been advised that we can ask, in lieu of not having an active CSRFF program, we have been advised we can ask local members of parliament for funding. And an example of this, albeit it's not at the scale of this, the Melville Cricket Club, which I think was brought to council in regard to an ongoing cost back in November last year. Part of the works they're doing is to replace their cricket pitch out there on Field 1, and they were looking to apply for CSRFF, but it was obviously closed. They spoke to their local member of parliament and were able to receive $40,000 to contribute to the project.
Councillor Robbins, I do need to move on to some other councillors. Thank you. How many more questions do you have? If there's several, it's probably best if you email them through. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Forgive me if I've missed this from the papers so far, but how much would need to be budgeted for the 26-27, given we've spoken about the time frames and things like that? And second question was, I'll fire them off quickly, and that's second and final. You mentioned that some of the lighting might need to go in the construction process. And so what would the timing of that be? I'm thinking about the soccer season and when that would happen. Would that be at the end of this coming season for soccer or perhaps sooner? Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Green. Through the chair. So we haven't identified what we would actually need for 26-27, and that is on the basis, I suppose, that the expectation is that we would want to confirm that external funding for the project to proceed, and that is obviously based on the officer recommendation. That being said, if in order to get the project going, you would probably need around 12 or so months for a detailed design period, and if, say, the funding was to come in the next couple of weeks, potentially $200,000 to undertake that process is estimated. So if things were to line up and happen, I suppose, fairly quickly in terms of those first 3, if the officer recommendation is to proceed, then we'd probably need to look at allocating $200,000 to next year's budget. In terms of the second question, we haven't got into the detail in terms of the timing of the construction and that sort of thing. The intent would be to undertake all the works at once from economies of scale and minimise the disruption on the clubs. It obviously will be very dependent on the timing and the feedback that we may get back from DEWA, and also the timing of those first 3 options. So we would also work with the groups in terms of if we had flexibility to minimise the disruption. That being said, it is a considerable project and would cause some disruption to both the groups for a period of time.
Okay. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question actually is for Mr. Tuffin. I just want to follow up on Councillor Robbins' question about the impact on rates. If there is no impact on rates and if the city still has to fund 50%, which is about $1.6 million, I mean, that doesn't come from nowhere. It has to come out of rates or out of reserves. Doesn't that equate to about 1.5% of current rates?
Mr. Tuffin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, that's correct. A 1% increase in rates at the moment is approximately $1.2 million. In terms of my previous comment, I didn't, if it was taken that way, I wasn't saying it wouldn't impact rates. I just made the comment that the budget hasn't been adopted, so it's difficult to actually establish the impact that it would potentially have on proposed rate increase at this time.
Councillor Spanbrook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is this the first time I've actually spoken with the officers? I hope you're patient with me. I do have a few questions that I can ask, please.
If you leave it to three questions, and then we've still got councillors after you that wish to ask questions. Okay. Well, can it be four? I understand that Councillor Robbins had quite a number of questions that she actually asked. I think she had. Yeah, you had four, I think. You can ask four, okay?
Thank you.
As long as they're quick questions.
Thank you. The first question to Mr Bird. I just wanted for Mr Bird just to confirm and to clarify that the area to be cleared did not qualify for any threatened ecological communities. If you can please confirm that.
Yeah, through the chair, I can confirm that. As I mentioned previously, our consultant that did the survey in 2020 did not consider it to qualify as TEC.
Okay, thank you. And now on to Mr Burton, that first of all, if a cricket pitch were to be constructed on Beasley and the football club were to train as per normal, and can you please explain what the ground would be like come summer? Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair. So probably just to be clear, and I know it was commented by Mr Lacquier in his deputation, and I probably didn't cover it in the presentation. So we've obviously have experienced challenges out at Beasley Park for a number of years, and that's due to a combination of, I would say, three key factors, one being the usage. Obviously, there's a large number of playing members out at the football club. However, we have been working with the club in reducing the amount of foot traffic that's on the oval. That obviously contributes to has contributed to the poor state of the oval towards the back end of the season in particular. And then the other two challenges are obviously sting nematode and basandine soils. Now, Mr Bird's team is responsible for obviously maintaining and the upkeep of that reserve, and that includes renovations, which typically tend to happen in the spring period for most reserves, but in recent years we've obviously have to push that out into the summer period, which would obviously then impact the playing surface for the cricketers. Cricket isn't as intense as football, however, so it would obviously impact the recuperation of that reserve come to the following next winter, and probably wouldn't be a great playing experience when you've got renovations that are happening during the summer period for the cricket in terms of the playing experience, which I think Mr Lacquier commented on previously.
Thank you. Another question to you, Mr Burton. So what happens with point 1, which is seeking and receiving a suitable amendment to the clearing permit? What happens if it is rejected, that there is no consideration for that? And can you just give some explanation what would happen to the entire project, and also that would it mean potentially that the city would prioritise the project and then to try and get things moving so they can actually be within the time constraints?
Through the chair, I'll do my best to try to answer this question. So we're obviously required to meet the city and or the club are required to obviously meet the requirements under the clearing permit, and obviously one is the timeframes. If D were decided not to approve a extension, that would obviously cause a challenge with the ability to be able to clear. I think your second question refers to potentially try to clear prior to...
Can the city, potentially prioritise a project so they can actually then meet those timeframes?
Yes. The challenge we've got with this is there's obviously, as I mentioned previously, there's detailed design that needs to occur. There are still other approvals that need to occur, and I didn't obviously reference this in the presentation. One is that portion of land is part of the contaminated site or the broader contaminated site. Now, based on the information that we've got at the time, that we don't believe that area will have any major significant impact in terms of contamination. That being said, the advice is that we would need to excise the area of where we're proposing to clear and create that as part of the lot of the reserve, which obviously is a statutory process that takes time, as well as obviously obtain approvals through DEWA's other arm in terms of the contaminated sites to make sure that it was safe and to proceed. However, the advice that we've got at the moment is that it's likely we'd get those approvals. It's just the time factor that for those approvals to occur.
All right, thank you. I think we
Madam
need to
Mayor, this
move
is my
on
last,
to...
this is the fourth question now, if that's okay.
One
Thank
more.
you. And so with the council resolution back in June 23, it was 0.65 hectares were actually were adopted for the clearing permit to be submitted to DEWA. And however, they have come back and they've actually increased that to 0.68 hectares. So from within, because you've worked elsewhere as well, that, and with the offset area being nearly 11 times greater than the area to be cleared, so the 7.34 currently 0.68, so it's nearly 11 times greater for the offset as opposed to the area being cleared, that is there... What I'm trying to ask is that with DEWA, they certainly would not propose something if they didn't, if they thought it was completely impossible. Is that something, you know, I can just get from your own experience that with regard to the clearing that's actually been put forward now with the offset area? Thanks.
Through the chair, I think in a previous deputation, there was discussion around the complexities of revegetating the area at Kenhurst Park, access, previous success rates, watering. I know Dr. Wyland spoke about 1 litre of water per plant. In our proposal, we're looking at additional watering, so that wouldn't be the limit. But I tend to agree that in that space it is extremely challenging and would be a project that would be something that we'd have to work through on exactly how we manage that site to get it to the requirement that DEWA are expecting. So, yep.
All right, thank you. We need to move on. We've exceeded our question time now. I have 2 councillors who indicated earlier, and we'll proceed with those 2. Councillor Wheatland.
Thank you. And I've got a question that I asked Mr Coombs around the legal responsibility, and the decision we made was to grant, it may not be you guys, it could be the CEO or someone, to grant the Leeming Spartan Cricket Club to apply for the clearing permit on behalf of the City of Melville, and that was granted with conditions. I just want to understand what would the club and the city put in place, firstly? You can't answer about the club, but what do we need to put in place to ensure that this offset and rehabilitation obligations are met, especially if, as we heard tonight, it's unable to be delivered over the 5-year time frame? And my second question, I'll ask it now, and if those conditions aren't met, where does that responsibility sit? Does that sit with the Leeming Spartan Cricket Club, or will that revert back to the City of Melville?
CEO, Ms Bowman.
Thank you. Through the chair, so thank you for your question. So the council authorised the Leeming Spartan Cricket Club to apply on behalf of the City of Melville. So it is actually the responsibility of the City of Melville to meet the permit conditions. So that's where I understand the situation to be. So that's why the staff have developed a plan to look at how they're going to meet the requirements in the clearing permit conditions, which includes the 5-year program, and there's a contingency built in on top of the original quote, so that's $1.3 million over that 5 years. But it will be challenging, and we'll need to work with the state government, if council was to approve this, to try and meet those conditions and continue to work with them to meet those obligations.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I don't think my question was answered. Sorry, Ms Bowman. What would happen if the city doesn't meet those requirements? What impact would that have on the city, and what cost and what risk?
Thanks. Ms Bowman.
Thank you. I'll need to take that question on notice and get back to you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And I hope that's going to be distributed like all the other questions that if you haven't asked tonight and they come up during the week, or you didn't ask them tonight, please submit them. We have one more question from Councillor Lim.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this question is really to Mr. Bird, right? So I think it's for a comment that you had before around why we can't challenge the state government's decision. I'm just collating what's been said today from Eddie, who's been, convener for 26 years. He has, a master's in the area from probably one of the best universities in the world. So I don't quite get it as well. From your officer's report, you're saying that it's already optimistic to try to achieve that 70%. So it seems like we have all the information to tell us that we should probably challenge what Dee was saying about that 70%. And I'm happy for you to take this on notice as well. Can you look for avenues where we can challenge that number? Because it seems like it could be one of those cases where, again, this is a huge assumption that they could just take from one scenario in the past and apply it to this area and assume, it's the same thing. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We have now finished with this item. Thank you very much for your participation and the officer's information. So we're going to move an item forward. There's been people in the gallery waiting very patiently. It is E2697 RFT 252623, Design and Construct for Mount Pleasant Foreshore Lighting. So we're moving that one forward. Okay, I remind the council there is a confidential attachment associated with this item. If elected members wish to discuss the contents of the attachment, I will hold this item to the end of the meeting so we can go behind closed doors. Are there any questions regarding the attachment that's confidential? If there are no questions regarding anything confidential, are there any questions on... Oh, somebody closed the door. The door's not supposed to be closed. Oh, thank you, Councillor Wheatland. I think they just were trying to be polite because they're going to be very noisy outside. Perhaps they can move away from the door. Oh, yep. Okay, they're on their way.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, can you repeat the confidential comment
yes,
again?
I will.
It was a bit noisy, thank you.
Yes, it was very noisy. I remind the council there is a confidential attachment associated with this item. If elected members wish to discuss the contents of the attachment, I will hold this item to the end of the meeting so we can go behind closed doors. Are there any questions regarding the confidential attachment? If there are no questions regarding the confidential attachment, are there any questions regarding the non-confidential attachment or material? Thank you, Councillor Woodall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in relation to what's been discussed and proposed, prior to this item coming before council for the lighting, was any community consultation undertaken on whether new lighting or replacement lighting was supported by local residents?
Mr Coton?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. No, there wasn't any consultation. This just came through our normal asset management processes, that there's existing infrastructure at the end of its life and was put on this year's budget and adopted by council, and staff are implementing it.
Councillor Woodall?
Given that there hasn't been community consultation to date, and following discussions we've had about other city assets that may be in a similar category, is there an opportunity to put this on hold until we undertake community consultation about whether lighting along the foreshore is actually desired and or required, prior to just continually renewing assets which the community may not actually value, potentially?
Mr Coton?
In relation to putting it on hold, the report obviously before council is whether or not to award a contract. So if it was put on hold, then presumably the decision would be not to award a contract. There is a validity period where the contractors tenderers hold their price, after which they can increase it or vary it. As I mentioned earlier on, originally we had gone out to the market to get a design, so it would have designed first and then do construction. So that would have made it a bit easier to do the consultation, because people are obviously concerned about the amenity and what it's going to look like and things like that. If we had a design, we would have actually had something that we could have do the consultation on. But as it's turned out, we're going for the design and construction in one go. So if it was put on hold, essentially the tender wouldn't be awarded. The difficulty would be that if it was decided that the lighting was required, when we came to go to tender again, we may not get much response from the market, and there's, we didn't get a lot of, or didn't get any interest in the design process. We didn't get a lot of tenderers for this particular job, so that would be a risk that if we did decide to do it in future, we wouldn't get people bidding for
it. Councillor Woodall.
And just around lighting along river foreshore paths, are there significant areas of foreshore paths throughout the city that don't have lighting currently? For example, I'm thinking of Adderdale, Burke Drive, the path along the river there, my understanding was doesn't have lighting, but are there other significant sections of path that don't currently have lighting?
Mr. Curtin?
Yeah, I'd have to take that on notice and get you some more information, but there certainly are places that don't have lighting, that is correct.
Right, thank you. Councillor Panayiotou.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jim, you mentioned earlier that that we're looking at this project because there's a life where we're pretty much end of life cycle. So wouldn't that be not a capital expenditure, and we should be looking at this as a maintenance project rather than capital?
Mr. Curtin?
No, the value of the expenditure means that it would be classified as capital under our financial accounting system.
Councillor Barber?
So just following on from Councillor Paniotou's question, but is it at their end of life and it's a total replacement? Is that correct, Mr. Coton?
There's different sections of it are in different conditions. Some of it is actually unsafe and has been switched off. There's some that's corroding. Some of the lights are corroding. Some of the footings of the lights have been impacted by erosion on the path. So, and there's some of it that's just doesn't meet standards. So there's a variety of issues in regards to that. So it's not all. It is all at the end of its life, but some of it is in worse condition than the rest. And there is also the risk that it is a highly used path, so not having lighting there in some of those sections, and we have had to turn it off in some areas, does increase our risk exposure as well in terms of liability claims.
Thank you. If I could just ask my question now, Madam Mayor. Something that perplexes me is I keep hearing the word erosion and the potential erosion and results from actual erosion on these lights, and yet we're going ahead and pursuing the same project while the erosion's still there, and I don't understand that. And I personally feel that this is something we should defer because until we get the erosion under control, it seems like it'd potentially be a waste of money.
Mr. Coton?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. The intention with the part of the design process would be to position the lighting infrastructure where it's not exposed to the river. So it'll be a combination of light poles and bollards, but it would be located in a more appropriate location than on the river edge.
Just one last quick one. Because this is now is a capital expense, which you've explained, and it's a significant amount of money at $1.6 million, why weren't we given more information about this at an information session?
Mr. Coton?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's not $1.6 million, it's about $600,000, about 600, and I don't have the exact figure in front of me, but it is in the report. and I wasn't here at the time, but an amount of $400,000.
Excuse me, I understand this is a confidential item. It's supposed to be discussed behind closed doors. Perhaps you can email those questions through to Mr Coton, unless you're prepared to go behind closed doors. Okay, can we move on to Councillor Green?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. For the benefit of other elected members, I've been liaising with Director Coton a little bit. I was just wondering if Mr Coton could, for the benefit of other elected members, confirm his estimate of $50,000 for decommissioning of the lighting.
Sorry, this is confidential again. If you wish to discuss the confidential attachment, please let me know and we'll hold this over to the end of the meeting.
Madam Mayor, this isn't confidential.
Oh, that's not confidential? No, I think
this is an estimate for what we would do if we didn't proceed with any
Oh, thank you. No, that's okay. Proceed with it.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, and I would preface my comments by saying this is only a very rough estimate and council shouldn't rely on it for any, I guess, yeah, it's just a very rough estimate. So, but based on removing the existing infrastructure, which I think is about 47 or to around 50 existing poles, and removing exposed footings, so where the footings are above the ground, we've estimated it'd be roughly in the order of $50,000. And again, some of what would be removed would actually, again, because we don't have the design, but as some of the other infrastructure would be removed, there'd be cables, etc., that could be pulled from out of conduit. Some cases we may not be able to pull them out, so, you know, likely the conduits would remain in the ground. So it's just a very, very rough order of magnitude estimate. So.
Just one follow-up. On a different topic, I've personally been riding around the river side, Shelley, Rossmoyne, and we've heard that we don't seem to have these foreshore lighting in anywhere else in the city of Melville. It appears to me that in the near vicinity anyway, there doesn't seem to be either. I was just wondering if Director Coton or other city officers have you know, some sort of concept in mind with the tender from elsewhere, perhaps in Perth Metro.
Mr Coton?
Sorry, perhaps could you just clarify the question, Councillor Green?
Is the tender, and again, we're not really going into the tender process here, but was the tender that was put forward sort of based on any area other than the Esplanade that in the city of Perth that has a similar arrangement with lighting along a footpath where there's an adjacent street?
Mr Coton?
The tender document wasn't based on other locations, but there would be other locations where there is lighting along paths that are next to roadways, and likewise there would be some that aren't. So the tender document was put together based on the scope of work that was required. I won't go into any of the other detail. Perhaps we need to go behind closed doors if we want to discuss that in more detail.
Thank you.
Councillor Lim.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just thinking about what Councillor Barber was saying around the whole erosion in the area. So if we do any sort of studies and then we found that, it's going to be, you know, an increase in cost, like, can we just exit the, you know, and just like pull away when the cost is going to be in the, you know, in the high areas? Thank you.
Mr Coton?
Through you, Madam Mayor, again, if we want to discuss the details of the tender, I'd rather do it behind closed doors, but the tender has been submitted based on the scope of works. The tenderers are aware of the issues associated with the project.
Councillor Panayotou?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question. We do already have street lighting along the footpath and the roadway along the Esplanade?
Mr Coton?
Yes, there is street lighting along there. In some cases, the path veers away from the immediate roadway, but there is lighting along the Esplanade. Yes, street lighting, yes, definitely.
Is there any idea of the usage of the path at all? Do you have numbers of the people who use it?
I don't have numbers, only anecdotal evidence from what people have reported. We don't have numbers of it.
Okay, are there any further questions from elected members? If there are no further questions, we will move on back to item M2674, proposed local laws, City of Melville Cat and Fencing Amendment Local Law 2026. Are there any questions on this item? If there are no questions on this item, we're moving on to the next one, which is M2673, Common Seal, March 2026. Any questions? Next item, M2675, Local Government Reform Committee Review. Any questions? Oh, yes. Mr Gilditz needs to make a comment here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And a very brief comment. For those that attended the Audit and Risk Committee meeting, there were some minor changes that were suggested by the committee. They have been incorporated into the attachment that you'll see in the papers. In particular, those changes are in green.
Are there any questions? Councillor Barber.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just Councillor Panayiotou and I got here tonight and said, what do you want to be on? And we both wanted to be on the AREC. And so I know we've got the pretty tables in there, but does it have to be one per ward? Is there anybody else in any other wards who don't want to be on the AREC? I wondered whether do we have to have a 6 or do we have one each? Is that set in stone?
Mr Gilditz.
Thank you. And through Madam Mayor, that is suggested in accordance with the terms of reference, but it is open to council to determine otherwise.
Councillor Barber, as you would be aware, that even if half the council puts their name down to be on the committee, the other half are welcome to attend. There would be nothing preventing it.
Just that for the first, Councillor Panayiotou and myself were both on the governance committee. So I suppose, you know, that's what it has been like.
There would be nothing to prevent you from coming at all. Both of you could come.
All right, good.
There's no restriction.
Okay, thanks. And we'll probably do that. The other question I've got is just the fact that the Mayor is chair of the CEO panel review. And I wondered, not that I'm anti the Mayor, but it's always, you know, been...
I think that's the next item. I'm being told that's the next item. If we just finish with this one...
This is the committee review, isn't it? Oh, no, we've got another one coming up. All right, good, thanks.
Okay, is that all right? Any questions, any further questions on this item? Oh, Councillor Robbins.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just looking at the officer recommendation, it appears from this that we would appoint a deputy for the Mayor, but I'm just wondering how that works if everyone will already be allocated as either a member or a deputy. I'm just wondering if that's correct in the table, and if so, how that will work in practice.
Mr Gilditz.
Thank you, through Madam Mayor. You'll see in the terms of reference document, we've actually blacked out where there is no deputy. So there's no deputy for the Mayor, there's no deputy for the external members. They serve as their own deputies.
Thank you. So just to confirm, next week we won't be appointing a deputy for either the Mayor or the external members. That's right? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions on this? Councillor Green.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I'm a little. I have some concerns about formally disbanding the existing committees. I realise that it's almost certainly going to happen, but just in terms of any outstanding issues that perhaps haven't been resolved through those committees in the past. I'm thinking in particular of the compliance issue with the tree policy, where we didn't end up having a policy legislation meeting back in October when I was certainly pushing for it to still happen, and we still haven't. Yeah, so just could I get some clarity around how we will address outstanding issues?
Mr Gillett.
Thank you. And through the Mayor, in relation to policy, we are working through developing and finalising a draft of a policy framework, and that'll, and subject to the Council considering and adopting components of that, we'll be looking to then establish a policy and legislative working group. That will allow all the policies that would normally have gone to the policy committee to go to that particular group. What we're proposing for that group to do is actually do a workshop style instead of considering policies on a fait accompli basis. So it'll be far more interactive and a far more collaborative sort of process to develop policies, with the consideration that once they come through the council process, every elected member will have an opportunity to really engage in the development of the policy, and therefore once it gets to council, it hopefully will go through and be adopted accordingly. Any issues that are outstanding in regards to policy will either be considered through that process if it is sufficient time to do so. If not, it will go through an EMS/council adoption process, but no issues will be not considered and considered appropriately. We are expecting to hopefully have the policy framework ready to go in significant time, but hopefully before the 30th of June, we'll have it all in place for consideration.
Councillor Barber.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, just to comment on the blurb about this item in the agenda, and you've included the petition submitted by Mr G. War and signed by 46 residents, where they respectfully asked that the City of Melville, to cut it briefly, I think wanted some voluntary community inclusiveness, even, independent voluntary representation. So you've included that in there, but you haven't made any reference to it. So you've sort of just put it in there, but haven't said anything. It's like it's in there, but you haven't referenced it. You haven't said why it's in there and what you're going to do about it.
Mr Gillett.
Thank you. And through the Mayor, we have addressed it in the council report. There is a section that deals with the Policy and Legislative Committee and the reason behind some of the considerations that we've made.
Can you tell me where that is, Mr Yilditz?
On page 25 of 694.
Okay, thanks. No, that's, well, okay, so, yeah, but you haven't, can I maybe talk to you about this after, because I can't see where it's referenced at all.
Okay, can do.
Are there any further questions on this item? All right, thank you. Moving on to the next one. M2676, CEO Performance Review Panel appointment. Are there any questions on this item? Councillor Robbins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in terms of appointing an independent facilitator, is there any requirement to go out to tender or to invite quotes to appoint an independent facilitator?
Mr Yilditz.
Thank you. And through the Mayor, the regulations, in particular functions and general regulations, have certain schedules, certain thresholds where if they are met, there's required to go out to tender. The spend on that is expected or realised spend of $250,000. In relation to all other requirements around quotation process and everything else, that's Council's procurement policy that will set up the threshold in relation to that sort of. And then if there are any exemptions to that, they'll also be set out in the policy.
Councillor Lim.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Would we be able to get, or if it's easy to do, to get what the amount is of, contracts that are under 250K? Is that easy to do?
Mr Yilditz.
If I may clarify, is that in relation to the recommended facilitator or just generally?
I think it's just generally because I want to see how this fares with, how much we do in the city, if that makes sense.
And if I may just clarify, is that the distinction between how often we go out for tender as compared to how often we procure under the policy?
Correct.
Okay, I will have to consult my colleagues on that, but I think they might be able to generate a report over what period of time, or just
Just like
last financial year?
last financial year.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
I'll take that on notice, but I will see what we can do.
Okay, Councillor Barber?
Oh, thanks. Just restating what I was going to bring up earlier. I kind of was a bit surprised that the mayor is the automatic chair of the CEO review panel. Not that I have anything against you, Madam Mayor. You do a really good job as chair. However, it's been kind of nice in a way that our committees have given other people a chance to be the chair. The deputy mayor was often, not Matthew, but he probably has too, but been an opportunity to be a chair. I was the chair of the CEO recruitment, I think. I just wondered, and then the other thing I thought of was that because the mayor and the CEO work so closely together, perhaps it might be better to have more of an independent chair so that there's no conflict of interest. And it was just something that I was thinking about. Does it have to be the mayor? I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Mr Yildiz?
Thank you, and through the Mayor, the framework that we're proposing also is set out in regards to who the chair of the review panel is. However, again, that is a council decision, so if council determines to amend or require amendments to the framework, then they can amend to who the chair is.
I think Councillor Barber might be concerned about the fact there's no opportunities for others to chair things, but I think with the structure that's being, to understand this correct, with the structure that's being proposed, there are a number of, what did you call them?
Advisory working groups.
Advisory working groups where they would need a chair. So there'll be probably 2 or 3 of those where they are looking for chairs. So it will not be, councillors will not be excluded from taking lead in those opportunities.
Okay, thanks. I do think that, you didn't answer my question about the potential conflict of interest because of the close working relationship between the mayor and the CEO.
Mr Yildiz?
Thank you. Sorry, I missed that question, Councillor Barber. The Mayor and the CEO in all local governments will have a close working relationship. The Act is designed in that way, and there's a special requirement for the Mayor and the CEO to be able to engage. There wouldn't be any conflict of interest on the basis of their professional relationship. If there is a conflict of interest identified in regards to a financial or a proximity relationship or anything along those lines, then yes, but in this circumstance, we don't believe there is any.
Okay, are there any further questions? Councillor Robbins.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. There doesn't seem to be much discussion in the report about what led to the decision to recommend to the council that we appoint Ms Helen Hardcastle as the independent facilitator for the CEO performance review process. Just wondering if there's any further documentation or evidence around that process and how that decision was made that could be provided to elected members.
Mr Yildiz?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Robbins, are you referring to the current engagement of Ms Helen Hardcastle or the council decision that we are recommending to engage going forward?
The latter.
The latter. Yes, I will have to take that on notice, but yes, there would be.
Any further questions? Okay, let's move on to the next item. Investment statements for February. Any questions? C26371, Schedule of Accounts. Councillor Lim?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just looking at attachment 1 of page 168. So I noticed a payment of 138K made to Innovate, described as IT, software licensing and maintenance. So yeah, I think there's 2 parts to this question. Can I assume that is the milestone payment for the proof of concept? Thank you.
Mr Tuffin?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, that's correct.
So I guess my second part is, because of that, can I ask what integration work has been done in that POC? It would be good if I can sort of understand what systems have been integrated already, because that would be discussed in the confidential report later. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, sorry to interrupt. What page number is Councillor Lim referring to?
168.
Sorry?
168.
Thank
you.
Mr Tuffin?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd probably have to take that on notice, but I can give you a quick overview of what was made up part of that payment of the 138,000. So it was the requirements and design of the system, the CRM system configuration, branding, integration, data migration, and the project management and testing of the current system. I can provide further technical detail tomorrow for you.
Thank you.
Any further questions on this item? Okay, we'll move to the next one, which is C26-373, Statements of Financial Activity for February. Any questions? Okay, CD 2660, Response to Petition, Wren Street, Mount Pleasant Parking Concerns. Any questions? Item E2695, Response to Petition, Streetscape Upgrade, Hume Court and McCoy Street. Any questions? Councillor York.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Probably a question for Director Coden. I'm just wondering how many other, as far as I know, Winthrop's the only place that has a streetscape, I guess you could say. Are there any other streetscapes in the City of Melville as what's proposed in this petition?
Mr Coden?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. There's a number of streets within the city have got streetscaping elements to them. I'm not familiar with the specific Winthrop comment that you're making, but there's a number of our roads have got streetscaping.
I guess I was just trying to get an idea of how common it is, but maybe I'll just email you about it. Thanks.
Just a question to Mr Coden. Is landscaping taken into consideration with the master plan?
I might defer that to my colleague who's preparing the master plan.
Through the Chair, the City is in the process of finalising the Myaree master plan, which was advertised to the community some months ago. Landscaping does form part of the consideration of that master plan.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Councillor Green.
Yeah, I was just wondering, would the master plan consider treatments to surrounding streets as opposed to maybe streetscapes? Just to if we're talking about McCoy Street, which is the subject of the petition, things like raised platforms to slow down traffic as they go past and draw attention to the precinct, if you like. These sorts of things would that and you know along the lines of perhaps place activation, that sort of stuff for the business areas.
Mr Varelis.
Through the Chair, the master plan, as mentioned earlier, is in the process of finalisation. It is looking to draw on existing programs the City has identified through capital works planning and the like for road renewals and potential traffic treatments where they're warranted and where investigations were potentially to occur, having regard for place outcomes, streetscape improvements and the like. So there's overlap between existing renewals and looking at how those renewals should occur in the context of where the future of the Myaree business area is progressing, and the Hume Court area and McCoy Street is a key focus. They are key nodes within the Myaree master plan area where there's hives of activity and town teams. So there is a focus on those particular areas as part of the master plan, but it is looking to draw on existing programs and enhancing those existing programs through a place and place activation lens.
Thanks. One quick follow-up.
One further question?
Yeah, I guess it may be along similar lines, but After meeting with the petitioners, with the Mayor and former Councillor Terry Lee some months ago, pedestrian access was also something we spoke about. Widdicombe Street, I drove past on my way here today, and I was pleased to see that they've fixed it up somewhat, but because it was looking quite run down. I guess what I'm getting at is Myaree business area is probably not something that pedestrian access sort of first comes to mind, but there's some very pleasant areas of Myaree that are not too far away. So, yeah, just wondering if pedestrian access rather than vehicle access is also something being considered in the master plan.
Thank you, Mr. Varellas.
Through the chair, the key actions of the master plan do look, as I mentioned earlier, at drawing on existing programs for renewal and the like, and where there's opportunities to improve pedestrian connectivity, they will be looked at and enhanced as part of that process.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Let's move on to the next item.
Madam Mayor.
Oh, Councillor Barber.
Can I be a pain? I had a question about the previous one on Wren Street. Am I allowed to ask that now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ask that now.
I'm just feeling a bit sad for the residents. I'm really pleased that the city staff had a meeting with them, but I kind of like the idea of a permit system. Yes, it won't improve the parking, but it will stop the infringements. And so I'm just wondering, what's my question? Couldn't we give them a permit to stop them getting infringed? And what were the infringements for? That's my question. What were the infringements for?
Mr. Coton? Oh, sorry.
Mr.
Mr. Burton.
Might refer to Mr. Burton.
Apologies, I'll have to take that one on notice.
I know there's a lot of development in Wren Street, so I'm wondering, are there tradies there? Is it, I just don't understand what they're getting infringed for. And yes, it won't make more parking spots, but it would stop them getting infringements if they had a parking permit.
Councillor Spanbrook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just on that, with regard to Mr. Burton coming back to us, that there has been a demand for resident parking permits, and I have actually spoken to Mr. Coton about this, and there's a few within Leaming and Bull Creek that requested for parking permits, and I understand that the Community Development Department, they're actually having a look at that. It's been a few years now, so I'm sure they're actually getting onto something sooner than later. And because they are very much in demand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm just very mindful of the time. It's 10 to 10, and we probably need to keep moving if you don't have any further questions. We're now moving on to item E2699, RFT 252629, construction of Goolagatup Stage 2 Welcome Place. I'd like to remind the council that there's a confidential attachment associated with this item. So if you wish to discuss the contents of the attachment, I'll hold this item to the end of the meeting so we can go behind closed doors. Are there any questions? No questions. I will move on to motions with previous notice. One motion with notice has been received from Councillor Ross ahead of tonight's meeting. Councillor Ross is working with officers in relation to this matter. Should the motion proceed, it will be circulated as soon as possible. Item 16, motions without previous notice. It will be dealt with at the ordinary meeting of council. We're now moving on to matters for which the meeting was closed to the public. Hang on, we haven't closed it yet. Oh, yes. So we move on to confidential items for this evening. Can I please get an indication from elected members if they wish to discuss any of the confidential items of the draft C26374 Draft Digital Strategy 2030 endorsement? You have questions? All right. C26375 Recreation Leasing Opportunity Update, Barrisdale Open Space, 40 Bedford Road. Ardros, any questions? Okay. No. C26376 RFP outcome 788 to 794 Canning Highway Applecross. Does anybody wish to ask questions? No? Okay, so we need to have a mover and seconder to go behind closed doors. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Woodall. Seconded, Councillor Green. Is anyone opposed? Councillor Wheatland, we'll have to take a vote. All right. You're happy to withdraw that? Yes, okay, thank you very much. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. The doors are closed. We have to wait a moment for the officers to disconnect the live streaming. Please pause. Okay, item 18, decisions made while meeting was closed to the public. For the purposes of the notes, I advise that the following items were discussed behind closed doors, or the following item was C26374 Draft Digital Strategy 2026 to 2030 endorsement. 19, closure. For the purpose of the notes, just to let you know, Councillor Hong has left the meeting. So there being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 9:56 p.m. Thank you very much for your attendance, and we'll just pause as the live streaming is turned off.